Commissioner Asimi, Commissioner Burke, Commissioner Dunn,
Present.
Commissioner Art,
Here.
Commissioner Fromer,
Here.
Commissioner Gardino,
Present.
Commissioner Inman, Commissioner Tavoloni, Chair Gilmetti.
Here. Okay. To do items 2, 3, 4, and 5, we need 8 commissioners, and I believe 2. Okay, so we're going to skip down to approval of the minutes.
So moved.
Do I have a second? Second. We have a motion and a second to approve the minutes. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? As soon as our executive director gets off the phone trying to find commissioners, he'll give an executive director's report. Lawyers are all the same.
Because I brought I used one that didn't work.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The only thing I need to report today is that Sarah Scallett, the person who basically managed your meetings here, got all the agendas together and the book items, has decided to leave state service. She departed last week. She'll be starting a new job in the Bay Area in a field that she's really worked hard to get into, which is kind of similar, not to what we do here. She's in microbiology. She'll be doing a lot of research-related things. So I just wanted to mention that to you and give you an opportunity to wish her well. And, we're going to miss her. She's done a great job for us. And that concludes my report.
Thank you. The next item is commission reports. Commissioner Inman?
I think we'll cover it later, but I participated in the first meeting of the California Freight Advisory Committee, so hats off to our team from Caltrans for getting us launched, and I'll trust that Comey or Malcolm are going to give us a good report.
Commissioner Dunn?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just to report that SCAG had their regional summit last week. Really good discussions on the current issues and good panel of a lot of our folks in transportation on the future of infrastructure funding. So commend SCAG once again for a good summit.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman.
Commissioner Gardino?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I would just like to give kudos to 2 Caltrans employees, and I hope that Malcolm will pass along a note for District 5, Eileen Lowe, and for Rachel Falsetti with the department. They led me and my wife on a tour of the chip seal work on the Pacific Coast Highway from Ragged Point to Cambria, about a 20-mile stretch. One, they took time on their Saturday, Easter weekend to do so. 2, just incredible professionals and wonderful to spend a couple of hours in the saddle with to test that road. So above and beyond the call of duty, and Malcolm, please pass along my thanks.
Okay, any other reports? Commissioner Fromer?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I just want to report that I had an opportunity to meet with a group that is organized by Patrick Mason, our former colleague in CFE, and talk with our Secretary of Transportation, Brian Kelly, who I think will be here later today, about the future of using alternative procurement and delivery methods in infrastructure, about P3s and design build. It's a very good conversation, I thought. Ann Mayer was there. Richard Katz from MTA was there, really trying to underscore the need for flexibility in delivering projects, how that works for agencies, how it makes our money go farther, and what projects are appropriate. So I think many of you know that Secretary Kelly has been charged with coming up with a plan for the Brown administration based on our report that we did on the needs assessment, and this is one piece of that discussion. So it was a good discussion.
Okay, any others? The next item number 9, Commissioners meeting for compensation. Do you have a motion? Second?
Second.
A motion and a second to approve the Commissioner meetings for compensation. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Item passes. We're still 1 member short of our 8 required. So that should start in about 5 or 10 minutes. So we'll move on to report by Agency Secretary Brian Ennis. Brian, here?
Like I can go.
We saw him at dinner. Okay, Malcolm, we'll have you give your report then.
Thank you, Mr. Chair and Commissioners. I appreciate the opportunity to give you an update on certain items. As you all are probably well aware, the Caltrans family is reeling from the tragic loss of two of our employees. On April 24th, Sean Baker and Robert Jones were killed in the line of duty in a rock slide while they were doing rock scaling activities up in District 2 in Siskiyou County. Their services were last Thursday and Friday, and there was well represented from community members as well as Caltrans staff, and I was able to attend as well. But certainly a sad time for Caltrans. Ironically, we were having our Caltrans Workers Memorial on the same day on Thursday, and I appreciate Chair Gomedi and Commissioner Arp in being there. And we have that event to recognize all the Caltrans employees who have lost their lives and made the ultimate sacrifice for the people of California in the line of duty. With those two additional, it makes 180 Caltrans employees since 1924 who have given their lives while working for the people of California. And unfortunately, we had a tragedy that morning when an employee was going to the event in a motorcycle ride that they actually use as a fundraiser for the California Transportation Foundation, and he was struck and killed by a motorist who made an illegal movement through a red light. So we are reeling from that as well, and we will have to. We are supporting the family members and the fellow coworkers as much as we possibly can at this time. Another very newsworthy topic that I'd like to touch on, but you will get a larger or longer presentation later in your agenda from Mr. Stephen Mahler, is the San Francisco Bay Bridge, specifically the bolts that we experienced a failure on. I do want to highlight that to date, we have a failure of one set of bolts that arrived on the project in 2008. We are looking at all the bolts that are very similar in specification and tension to those bolts, as well as every piece of equipment that we got from that supplier on the entire bridge. The cause of the failure to the 2008 bolts at the eastern tie-down was hydrogen embrittlement. There are other bolts that are very similar to those. We have tensioned those up. They have been tensioned up for in the neighborhood of 30 days to 30-plus days, and we have not experienced any problems or issues with those as of yet. We are doing a complete forensic analysis on the 2008 bolts, as well as a litany of tests on the 2010 bolts. We have already visually inspected all the other bolts that are of these specifications on the bridge, as well as other structures in the area. And again, there are no other issues that are identified at this time. And again, we will keep you posted. We have been making presentations to the Bay Area Toll Authority every other week in the public forum, and then also trying to answer all the questions. We will do that again tomorrow at their meeting, and we will also be indicating to them what the retrofit solution to the 2008 bolts are at that meeting tomorrow. And again, there'll be a longer presentation on that subject by Stephen Muller of your staff later on today. Another issue that we are working very diligently on, and we have not solved the issue yet, is Buy America clause with the specifically with the utility companies. We have a long list of projects, namely about 45 projects that could be impacted by this issue. We are trying to work very closely with the 5 large utility companies that have not resolved their business practice and agreed to sign utility relocation agreements with Buy America clauses that are now required as of the passage of MAP 21. That again is not a resolved issue, but we are pushing as hard as we possibly can with them. I'm working very closely with FHWA. I appreciate the efforts of several commissioners, including Fran Inman, in trying to elevate it within the utility companies. We had a meeting specifically with PG&E yesterday at a high level. Again, the issue is not resolved, but we continue to work diligently on that. The worst thing that we want is to delay these projects such that it affects federal funds coming to the state of California, and that is our motivation to get those projects out. There also is a most recent Tiger program, Tiger 2013. Vince Mamano, the Executive Director for FHWA, may speak about this as well, but on April 22nd, 2013, a final notice was put out making available announcing U.S. DOT's $474 million National Infrastructure Investment Program. The application deadline is June 3rd, 2013. No entity can submit more than 3 applications, and the projects must be delivered by June of 2014, and they must meet all federal requirements for obligation no later than August of 2014. We have conveyed all this information to our local partners, and we are also working with districts to see whether or not there are any projects that we believe that would compete well for this program. I was also asked to mention the recent release of a California state audit specific to the foundation testing branch. This follows on. This is an issue that began back in 2011, and it follows on internal and external investigations that we conducted, and we produced a 600-page report that we commonly refer to as the GAMDAT. There wasn't necessarily anything new in the state auditor's document. We agreed with all the recommendations from the state auditor. Their findings and their recommendations were consistent with the findings that we had, and we have already implemented all the recommendations that were included in there, so I wanted at least to share that with you. Lastly, we have several new appointments in key positions. Backfilling Jay Norvell, the Division Chief of Environmental Analysis, we have appointed Katrina Pierce, who was the Environmental Manager for the North Region, Districts 1, 2, and 3. That effective date is May 8th. We have also appointed Coco Braceno to the Chief of the new Division of Research, Innovation and Systems Information, and you may recall that this is actually a combined a combination of the divisions of the Division of Research and the Division of Transportation Systems Information. This was an outcome of our program review, and we merged those 2 divisions for operational advantages. And we also have a new Chief Information Officer, CIO, starting on May 20th, and her name is Gigi Smith. And we look forward to working with all of those individuals in their new capacities. And with that, I will end my comments and be more than happy to answer any questions that you may have.
Thank you, Malcolm. Questions? Commissioner Inman?
Malcolm, you mentioned that we have the possibility of 45 projects. Could we prepare a priority list and a time order of the hot spots for all of us, since every dollar is so precious for us, and time, from my development experience, typically adds to the cost when we have a delay. So could we pick out our hot spots, and, well, we need to find, no pun intended, a global solution to this. But I think that we also need to find solutions probably on a priority basis. I know we have the Alameda Corridor East Nogales project that has a notice to proceed date of next Monday. So it's coming really, really quickly. So if you can, and I'll speak for all my fellow commissioners, you know, we're happy to assist in any manner we can to facilitate any discussions.
Of course we will, and I appreciate your assistance thus far. We do have 45 projects. We have 32 projects that are imminent, and we actually have 9 projects that we put into a critical category that total up over $200 million. But we're looking at the entire list, and we have prioritized that, and I'd be more than happy to share that with you.
Great. Thank you, Malcolm. Thank you for that question. Any other questions of Malcolm? Okay. Thanks for that report. We're going to move back to item number 2, resolutions of necessity. Stephen?
Yes, Mr. Chair. If you could inquire if Mr. Miller or his representative is present, and if he could identify himself.
Yes, I'm Michael Ryder.
Okay, thank you. Okay, Commissioners, good morning. Under eminent domain law, a property owner whose property is under condemnation consideration has the right to appear before the Commission to question 3 and only 3 issues. 1, whether public interest and necessity require the proposed project. 2, whether the proposed project is planned and located in a manner that is most compatible with the greatest public good and least private injury. And 3, whether property to be condemned is necessary for the proposed project. The Commission neither determines the amount of compensation for the property rights to be acquired, nor deals with any other issue than the 3 just stated. Government Code Section 7267.2 requires the Department to make an offer to purchase the property rights needed. The Department has made the required offer. The Department's property condemnation process includes review panel meetings to try to settle outstanding issues to which the property owner is invited. These meetings have been held. Code of Civil Procedure Section 1245.240 specifies 8 affirmative votes for Commission approval of a resolution of necessity. The Commission scheduled an appearance at the request of Malcolm Ritter, attorney for property owner Victor Miller. The property in question consists of 4,649 square feet zoned for general commercial use and is improved with a billboard structure. The property is impacted by a $50 million interchange reconstruction project on Interstate 10 in the city of Loma Linda in San Bernardino County. The department needs the entire property in fee to reconstruct the Tippecanoe Avenue freeway off-ramp. The property owner contends there is a feasible off-ramp alternative alignment that would not require condemnation of his property. Per the department, the alternative off-ramp alignment is at a too sharp of an angle and into a sequence of two reverse curves, each of which is too sharp for safety. The property owner also contends that he has a vested right to upgrade to an electronic sign and should be compensated for such. Issues related to compensation are outside the purview of the Commission and are settled in court. District 8 Director Bassam Mulem is ready to make the department's presentation, to be followed by the property owner or his representative.
Okay, Bassam?
Good morning, Commissioners. My name is Bassem Muallim. I am the District 8 Director. This presentation is for the resolution of necessity for the Miller property in San Bernardino County in District 8. The owners are Mr. Craig R. Miller and Mr. Victor J. Miller. The department's project is located consider a business loss of goodwill claim when the owner provides the necessary documentation so an evaluation can be completed. As previously mentioned, the department has offered a portion of the excess land area across the street from the existing Miller property as a potential replacement site to offset or reduce impacts of the project. To date, the Millers have not accepted the offer. Mr. Miller has been notified that issues related to compensation are outside the purview of this commission and are instead an issue for the courts. Next, Mr. Miller contends that the department has wrongly denied the owner's application for an outdoor advertising permit to upgrade to an electronic sign at the existing location. In 2010, the owner's request was denied due to the area being classified as a landscaped freeway and due to a future construction project. Recently, this section of I-10 has been declassified as a landscape freeway and is currently zoned for commercial use. The department has offered a portion of excess land as an exchange for the owner's property and the relocation of their billboard. The property owner can apply for a permit to install an electronic sign at the relocation site. Caltrans outdoor advertising program will consider approval of a complete and accurate permit application. The City of San Bernardino is amenable to an electronic sign upgrade. Next, Mr. Miller contends that the department's project could be designed to avoid his parcel with an alternate alignment for the westbound off-ramp. The alternate alignment proposed by the owner is a non-standard ramp design. There are no standard alternate alignments for the westbound off-ramp at the proposed location that would eliminate impacts to the Miller property. The alternate design is not in the greatest public good and least private injury, as the alternate alignment does not meet drivers' expectations. The owner's alternative has been superimposed on the project layout, which is also shown in red on this slide. The owner has not provided adequate engineering data. The alternative would direct vehicles exiting the freeway at too sharp of an angle and into a sequence of two reversing curves, each of which is too sharp for safety, at a speed that is too fast for the curve geometry. The department's design maximizes safety for drivers' expectations. Any lesser design is a compromise in safety. With that, I'd like to summarize the Miller property resolution of necessity by stating that the department has demonstrated that, one, the public interest and necessity require the proposed project; two, that this project is planned and located in a manner that will be most compatible with the greatest public good and the least private injury; three, that the property sought to be condemned is necessary for the proposed project; and lastly, number 4, that an offer of just compensation has been made to the owner of record in accordance with Government Code 7267.2. The department asks that you approve this resolution of necessity. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any questions? Okay. We have 3 speakers. Mr. Michael Ritter. Mr. Ritter, before you start, I was reading your letter that you presented to us, and on the 3rd paragraph, you state the property owners are not objecting to the resolution of necessity based on the amount of compensation. The objection is the inadequate offer made by the department. That sounds like you're objecting to compensation, and
No.
we can't deal with that.
I understand that. Good morning, Chairman and members of the Commission. No, and I understand that. No, we are not dealing with the compensation. What we are saying is that the steps that the legislature has put forward in making a offer have not been met. It was just a sham offer that goodwill should have been considered. And in the letter, I give the section of the Government Code. Let me read it. Government Code Section 267.2A1 says, in pertinent part, prior to adopting a resolution of necessity pursuant to Section 1245.230 of the Code of Civil Procedure and initiating negotiations for the acquisition of real property, the public entity shall establish an amount that it believes to be just compensation thereof, and shall make an offer to the owner or owners of record to acquire the property for the full amount so established, unless the owner cannot be located with due diligence. In a property like this, a billboard, all the value is in the goodwill, and it needs to be considered. Staff even agreed at one point to do a goodwill evaluation, but then it came back through the lawyer, through Eric Fleetwood, that no, they weren't allowed to do a goodwill evaluation until after a resolution of necessity. So they agreed. The right-of-way agent, Rita Harris, when she initially gave the offer, she apologized for a $149,000 offer versus a $5.3 million appraisal that the property owners did.
You're still talking about compensation.
No,
we
but
can't deal with compensation.
I understand. I'm saying staff acknowledges that it's not a real offer because goodwill isn't included. And so our position is that it's a sham offer, that the legislature has said that negotiations are preferred, and that's also in the letter. And that's what we're asking, is that the commission continue it to allow for negotiations. Despite what was said, the property owners have signed a possession and use agreement with some changes from the form. But we were told, well, with the right-of-way agent, Rita Harris, she said, I don't have authority to negotiate. Eric Fleetwood, the attorney, told me on the phone, he said, well, you know, I don't know what I'm supposed to be doing here, even though he was directed at the 2 levels of review to deal with us. We couldn't do anything. We asked earlier in January, we said, we agreed to the replacement parcel. We not only agreed to it, we proposed it. The legal description was based on our engineer's legal description. And so we asked, well, can we get, since we have a conditional use permit on this for an electronic sign, can we get Caltrans to agree to our new application for the replacement parcel? No, you have to wait until the commission deals with it. So we've tried to do everything to get this replacement parcel. We'll even put aside the price term until later. But we have no one to negotiate with. We have no one to talk to in Caltrans. No one seems to have authority, or at least the people that we've been directed to speak to, Rita Harris, the right-of-way agent, and Eric Fleetwood, staff attorney. So the negotiations required in the government code that the legislator required, we can't do it. We have no one to negotiate with. So that's why we're not dealing with the amount of compensation. We're very glad to have that dealt with later after the possession use is signed and agreed to by the commission. That's not a problem. But we can't even get anyone to acknowledge this signed agreement because what we have here is staff is checking off the boxes. They're going by the Caltrans manual, and they're not really willing to negotiate on these issues. As required. They just want to move the process along. So, yes, we would like the replacement property. We proposed it. It would meet our needs. But no, you can't have it. It has to go to the commission.
So what are you requesting a 30-day continuance or a continuance to our next meeting so you can work this out with District 8?
That would be great.
Can we have a response from District 8?
Mr. Commissioners, the discussion here that is not actually valid. We have worked throughout the whole process with the client. We have done the first level and second level review. We've offered the other parcel as a replacement site. This discussion is about loss of business goodwill, which is not the government code. It's just about real property only. And so we've done everything that we possibly can to negotiate with them. Negotiations will always be ongoing, and we'll continue to negotiate with the property owner.
Next question. Is there currently any electronic sign on the property that we're talking about?
There is not an electronic sign. It's just a regular billboard.
Thank you
And
very
they would like to go and put an electronic sign.
I understand, but the
Currently
current
it's not.
status is there's a billboard there.
There is a billboard, correct? Yes.
Thank you.
Commissioner Inman?
So do you have an agreement that's signed on the substitute property?
Yes, there were certain changes made. There were certain changes made, but it's signed right here.
Oh, but that sounds like a counteroffer to me if it has changes that are made. So I'm
They're-
not sure you have
They're
a
mostly as
valid
to how the
contract.
compensation's determined later. We can change anything that needs to be, but we were told, and I have the email here by Rita Harris, I don't have the authority to make the changes. Someone else does. I don't have the authority to negotiate on the price. And I'm telling you here, price is not an issue. We'll do a possession and use for the swap and deal with that issue later. But we're told, and this was April 16th, I think the email says, that there's no one to talk to with staff.
Well, but if you had an offer of the exchange property, and then what you just said to me was that the changes related to
It wasn't
compensation.
No, on the possession and use, we were about 7 days before the second level review. We finally, for the first time, received a written description of the property and a deed. So when we were trying to deal with it after the second level review, we didn't have enough time. I asked for a continuance of the second level review. No, the second level review has already been made. We can't negotiate now. We have to go through the second level review. So the possession and use agreement we received, it was missing key terms. There were blanks and things like that. So we couldn't just sign that. The date was wrong. There's other things that were wrong. We couldn't do it. And when I tried to deal with Eric Fleetwood, he told me, I don't have the authority to do it.
So, Bassem, this question is more for you. If you had a 30-day extension, could you all at least get to an agreement on the proposed property change? Understanding that the commission can't deal with any compensation issues. So can you get to swapping out the property deal, or is that impossible?
No, it is possible. We've offered that. And the possession and use agreement that he's referring to, actually, they proposed it, they agreed to it, and then they reneged on it. And we said we are willing to give them the parcel in exchange so that we can mitigate the loss. And we have always made that offer. They don't want that. They want the business loss of goodwill, and that's what they contended, and that's what they're asking for. And that's outside the purview of this commission, and we made that very clear to them. And then they were saying that they cannot put an electronic sign on the new location. And we said that you have to work with the city, and the city is amenable for an electronic sign, but they got to go through the application. And they have to have a complete application. They didn't even have, and this is again outside the purview of this commission, but they never even gave us their tax return until February of this year. We've been asking for it for 2 years. We need a 5-year tax return, and we gave them the paperwork so that they can initiate the work, and they've never done that until February of this year that we got the tax returns. So our position is very simple, that we are open to giving them that parcel replacement site to mitigate the loss. They can go through the city and apply for an electronic billboard, and then loss of business goodwill will be discussed at a time when it is feasible, not at this commission right here. We need to have time to see. There has been no loss of goodwill as we speak because we haven't even done the project yet, and we don't know what the number is. And that's something that can be negotiated.
But,
Commissioner
so
Burke?
do you have a, I'm sorry, do you have, you said they agreed and then they reneged, so do you have a fully executed agreement?
We are
on this
willing to
exchange?
sign the agreement on the parcel. They didn't want to do it. They want the loss of business goodwill. We are willing to give them that site as a replacement site, yes.
Commissioner Burke?
Is there a need for the immediate possession in terms of the timing?
Well, I mean, absolutely. We have, this is about $32 million in cost for right-of-way. We have 60-some parcels, 65 parcels. 60 of them we have acquired, and we're in the last phase. And this phase 2 is starting the project at the end of this year, so we need the parcel now so that we can move forward.
Did I understand him to say that he was willing to agree to immediate possession I think where the confusion is that there are two different processes. Goodwill and is one thing that's totally separate, often after the whole process is completed, whereas the improvements on a property is something else. Now, we don't deal with either one,
Correct.
but I think that often there is a lot of confusion on the idea of improvements on real property versus goodwill, which is a business issue that is based upon issue and profit and loss and a whole bunch of other things. But if my question of him is that knowing if he can give you some assurances that he's going to, once you provide the goodwill issues, the profit and loss and all those things that you have, that they will start negotiating that. Do you have any objection to us going forward now?
That was all provided, the goodwill. Initially, in 2011, before I was retained, that was provided. They asked in February, after the December meeting, for some more tax returns, for some more current ones. Those were provided.
So it's your position that unless you have the compensation established, you want this continued?
No.
Okay.
What we want is the replacement parcel, because it's better to have a replacement parcel as soon as possible so we could put a substitute sign. The current parcel is already entitled, but we have to get a new CUP for the new parcel. And the current parcel is entitled for an electronic sign. And we applied for twice for a ODA permit, but it was rejected twice. Once for
the
landscaping.
material we had was that there were different. The law had been changed in terms of landscaping and
Yes.
whether or not how it was classified.
We asked for a reclassification. It was declassified because it was initially denied because of it was a classified freeway. That was removed. So we tried again, and they said, no, it's a construction zone. And it wasn't a construction zone, so we appealed that. And the appeal is still going. It hasn't been set for hearing, and that was appealed in August.
But you, from our department, you're willing to help them, and the San Bernardino has agreed to give them the electronic sign. Is that it?
Well, we need a new CUP, but we assume since they agreed on the current parcel, they'll do it again. And that's what we asked in January. I asked Eric Fleetwood, will the state agree, because you can do a conditional use permit, as I'm sure you know, where the owner agrees to it, but the applicant isn't the owner, so that we could get this going, so that we could transfer the signs as soon as possible. Now you have to wait until the CTC. We can't approve that. It has to be the CTC.
You know, I would have no objection to a continuance, but it seems to me they really don't. Why put it off for 2 months if they're going to give them immediate possession and they're going to move forward?
Malcolm, you can answer.
Mr. Chair, if I could, I'd like to invite our legal up, and they may be able to add some clarity to just some of the points.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Linda Harrell. I'm the Deputy Chief Counsel for Caltrans. I represent District 8, in which this parcel is pending. And I only have a couple of comments I'd like to point out. As you know, and as you've well pointed out, the entitlement to loss of goodwill is a legal issue. The Department is under no obligation to negotiate loss of goodwill until and unless the property owner can prove entitlement. And that's a legal issue that's not to be negotiated before the RON is issued. And the reason for that is because Caltrans has no right to do discovery until the RON is issued and a lawsuit can be filed. So we have no right to get business records, so we can't evaluate the loss of goodwill. The same is true with replacement parcel issues. Replacement parcel is a way to mitigate damages. That's compensation. All of this goes to compensation. The department is not under any obligation to provide replacement property. That issue goes to the mitigation of the property owners for the damage. That is a compensation issue. And I would suggest that both of these issues do not arise to good cause to delay the RON. As the Commission knows, when we delay the RON, we put our CERT in danger. Once our CERT is in danger, our funding is in danger. There's no guarantee that the parties will come to an agreement on the possession of use. So if we continue the RON, we continue our CERT with no guarantee that the department will be able to move forward with the project to secure its funding.
Thank you for that explanation. Commissioner Fromer?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I think, with all due respect, that this is a compensation issue, and that we aren't clear on the entitlements here. This is something that has to come later in the process, and I don't know that delaying this is going to change that and the legal structure of this, because we're talking about a hypothetical electronic billboard. Unclear whether they have their entitlements now, but that all has to be discussed later in the process. So I'm going to move that we go ahead and approve the resolution of necessity this morning. That's my motion.
Is there another speaker?
There are three more speakers. Stephen, did you want to add a comment before I call on them?
No, only
Okay.
if it's necessary after the speakers.
Mr. Goodman?
Good morning, Commission. My name is Doug Goodman. I'm a registered civil engineer in California. I have been practicing as such for over 35 years. If you wouldn't mind, if you could put the owner's alternative alignment back up on the screen, please. Mr. Miller came to me mid last year and asked if there was an alternative alignment that could be devised so as to not cause the need for his sign to be removed. That would eliminate the need for you to be having to address this. I took a look at the geometry and came up with a concept that is not correctly depicted in the staff report that you have. It is not correctly analyzed as an accurate representation of the concept that we proposed. In fact, there is an interchange of almost identical geometry that exists today about 15 miles west of here. The interchange of Haven Avenue with the 10 freeway is almost identical. Back up one, please. There we go. This does not correctly represent what we propose as an alternative. That sharp angle there is a rather ridiculous representation. This is not what we proposed. So my statement to you is that this was not correctly evaluated and that there is an interchange of almost identical geometry that could work without taking the Miller's property. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions? The next speaker is Mr. Harrison.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the Commission. My name is Milford Harrison. I'm a government relations consultant representing the owner, Mr. Miller. I have a letter of authorization on file with your staff. I just wanted to make a couple of comments relative to the discussion that's gone on and relative to our reason for being here today. First of all, let me make it very clear that we support this project. I was born and raised in Loma Linda. Mr. Miller is a resident of Loma Linda. We know how much this project is needed, and we don't want to do anything to delay it. It is of the essence both for San Bernardino and Loma Linda. Another item that I want you to understand is that this billboard is a privately owned family billboard. It represents a significant amount of income for this family, and therefore it has become an emotional issue, as you can understand. The alternative parcel is, in fact, a good alternative, and if that can be negotiated and if that negotiation can be finalized, that will present an ongoing revenue stream for the family. I think our biggest problem so far has been in finding someone on your staff who has the authority to negotiate the final possession and use agreement. The possession and use agreement that was presented to us needed to have some alterations to it. There were amendments made, and it was signed, and it was presented back to your staff, and two members of your staff said that they did not have the authorization to negotiate the final statement on that possession and use agreement. So once it is determined, or once it is indicated to us who has that authority, then we'll be able to move ahead and finalize this alternative parcel issue.
I don't know that you recommend it. Commissioner?
I'm sorry. I have no questions for you.
Thank you.
I have a proposal, because it does seem that if this isn't an issue of compensation, to the motion that is already on the table, would taking 30 minutes, because the authority's in the room here, to discuss and negotiate this in the hall and put this at the end of our agendas on resolutions for necessity and bring you all back. Would that give you an opportunity to make an agreement on immediate possession?
That's just the kind of opportunity that we were hoping for today. We'd appreciate that.
I'll withdraw my motion in support of what Commissioner Dunn has asked.
Okay, in light of that, there is one more speaker. Would that speaker want to speak now, or let them go out and do whatever they're doing? Arnold, is it Sayas?
Good morning, Ms. Burke. Nice to see you again.
Good to see you.
I don't know about that, but good morning. Thank you very much. Arnold Sachs from Lenox, California. And actually, I was on my way to the city council meeting and happened to see this. And I'm very interested in some transportation issues. And I don't have a dog in this pony, a pony in this race, a dog in the show, whatever. But I'm concerned about the process here for eminent domain. And I've heard some things about negotiating for goodwill, replacement parcels, mitigation of property, possession of use, entitlement process. So I have a situation that would maybe in the foreseeable future will involve a eminent domain process, and that concerns a rail line, a light rail transit project.
Sir, wait, this item, you have to speak on this item. I hate to interrupt you, but we do have a section at the end of our agenda for public comment. I'm going to cut you off. We have a very, very thick agenda. You're welcome to come back and speak at the end of our program on public comment.
I appreciate you giving me the time, sir. May I ask a couple of quick questions?
No, sir. We've got an agenda we have to get through.
Going on all day? Until about 4, maybe?
We may finish sooner than that. I think we're scheduled to finish around 2:30, and it may be sooner than that. Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Okay. So we're going to send you guys out in the hallway for about 30 minutes, and we'll now move on to item number 3.
Yes, Commissioners, really item number 3, 4, and 5 are all co-joined. I will dispense with the legal presentation, and I would just say the Commission schedule an appearance at the request of attorneys for property owners Sears Development Company, Westfield Corporation, and the City of West Covina. The property in questions are a shopping mall and office buildings. The properties are impacted by a $155 million freeway widening and reconstruction project on Interstate 10 in the City of West Covina in Los Angeles County. The Department needs property in fee, in temporary construction easement, and temporary demolition easement. Sears and Westfield contend ramp closures and construction scheduling will impact business, and the city contends a valid offer of compensation has not been made. All these issues relate to compensation and are outside the purview of a commission and will be settled in court. District 7 Director Mike Miles is ready to make the department's presentation, to be followed by the property owners or their representatives.
Mike?
Okay. Good morning, Commissioners. My name is Mike Miles, and I'm the Caltrans District 7 Director. This presentation is for the resolution of necessity for the Sears Development Company, the Plaza West, Covina, Westfield Properties, and the successor agency to the redevelopment agency of the City of West Covina Properties, who have requested to appear before this commission to contest property acquisitions for the department's project in Los Angeles County. The department's project is located on I-10. I-10 is a major east-west freeway that provides commuter access between Los Angeles, San Bernardino, and Riverside counties. Within the project limits, the freeway is heavily congested during morning and evening peak periods. The accident rate is 18% higher than that of similar facilities statewide. The freeway currently consists of 8. Next slide. The freeway consists of 8 mixed flow lanes with auxiliary lanes between interchanges. The purpose of the department's project is to accommodate existing and future traffic demand by adding one HOV lane in each direction from Point A Avenue to east of Hollenbeck Street. The scope of work includes reconstructing the median, modifying several interchanges, and widening freeway to the outside. The subject parcels are located south of the freeway near the Vincent Avenue interchange. The Sears property is shown in orange. The Plaza West Covina properties, which we'll refer to as the Westfield properties, are shown in green. And the successor agency to the redevelopment agency of the City of West Covina properties, which will be referred to as the city properties, are shown in purple. This slide shows a closer view of the proposed project near the subject parcels. The properties consist of one parcel for Sears, 3 parcels for Westfield, and 2 parcels for the city. The proposed widening will be constructed on both sides of the freeway to balance and minimize right-of-way needs. The acquisition of these properties is required because the width of the existing state right-of-way is not adequate to accommodate the widening. Avoidance of these parcels would require shifting the widening further to the other side of the freeway. This would create much greater impacts to numerous properties on the north side, including 9 multifamily residential, 12 single-family residential, and 12 commercial properties. For this reason, impacts cannot be avoided to the subject parcels for the south.
At this point, we'd like to inquire if the representatives of Sears are present.
Yes. Yes, there is.
Next slide. This slide will remind you of the location of the Sears property relative to the project. This slide shows an aerial view of the Sears property south of the freeway. The entire parcel is 14.7 acres in size and is part of a larger Westfield shopping mall that includes buildings, parking areas, sign structures, and landscaped areas. The shading has been removed so that I can show the portion of the Sears property that will be acquired for the widening. The sliver in orange shows a fee acquisition of 13,685 square feet. The sliver in yellow shows the proposed temporary construction easement of 7,942 square feet. The small blue rectangle shows the temporary easement needed to remove a large sign structure within the acquisition area. The easement for the sign is 140 square feet. For a better view of the acquisition, the next slide will show a closer look at the area outlined in a black box. Again, this slide shows the fee acquisition in orange, the temporary construction easement in yellow, and the demolition easement in blue. The fee acquisition and the easements cause impacts to a ring road on the Sears property, which will facilitate traffic circulation within the parking area. The project will require the modification of a portion of the ring road, including landscape areas and a sign. This photo shows the ring road, the sign, and landscaped areas. The chain link fence marks the existing right-of-way, and the freeway can be seen to the right of the fence. This line shows the edge of the fee take. This line shows the temporary construction easement. And this line shows the temporary demolition easement for the removal of the sign. This slide shows an existing cross-section of the Sears ring road looking east. The freeway is shown on the right, or excuse me, on the left of the right-of-way line, and the ring road is on the right. The solid line shows the widening project and the impact to the Sears ring road. The proposed right-of-way limit is shown in red. Although the width of the ring road will be reduced from 42 feet to 33 feet in the after condition, there is still enough room to provide the same number of lanes. For the first issue, the property owner has raised a concern that the project will result in a temporary removal of the left turn lane of the ring road on the Sears property. The ring road is important for traffic circulation within the mall parking lot. In response to this, the department has reduced the temporary construction easement from 10 feet to 4 feet to allow the owner to maintain the left turn lane and to perpetuate the existing number of lanes on the ring road. This provides enough width for 3 10-foot lanes on the ring road during construction. In the second issue raised by Sears, the property owner is concerned that the eastbound lane of the ring road will include the drainage gutter as part of the lane. In response to this, the department design is adequate for the proposed speed of 15 miles per hour and traffic circulation within the mall parking lot. The proposed configuration is consistent with other existing portions of the ring road where the gutter is part of the lane. For the third issue, the owner is concerned that ramp closures and construction scheduling will impact business for Sears by making mall access more difficult for its customers. In response to this, the department has included written specifications in the project that prohibit the highway contractor from closing any 2 consecutive off-ramps at the same time. The contractor will also be prohibited from performing construction activities on eastbound I-10 in the vicinity of the Westfield Mall during the peak season between the Monday preceding Thanksgiving weekend and January 2nd. For the fourth issue, the owner has requested that no construction impacting the ring road should begin until the owner has completed their modifications to the parking lot. In response to this, the department's design does not require the parking lot modifications being proposed by the owner. However, if the owner desires to modify their parking lot, then the owner has the right to coordinate the modification with the construction schedule for the department's project. The construction schedule has been made available to the owner. For the fifth issue, the owner is concerned that the department has not made available to the owner complete copies of the project construction drawings and specifications. In response to this, the department has communicated to Sears on several occasions that due to the department's confidential bidding process, a complete set of these documents cannot be made available at this time. However, documents provided to the owner include some of the plans and specifications for the project, and additional project documents have been made available as part of the environmental process. All of the information should be significant to allow complete evaluation of the project and its impacts. With that said, I would like to summarize the Sears resolution of necessity by stating that the department has demonstrated that the public interest and necessity requires the proposed project, that the project is planned and located in a manner that will be most compatible with the greatest public good and the least private injury, that the property has sought to be condemned is necessary for the proposed project, and that an offer of just compensation has been made to the owner of record. The department asks that you approve the resolution of necessity for the Sears property.
Okay, thank you, Mike. Any questions of Mike? Can we hear from the Sears representative, and could you please state your name for the record?
Excuse me. Good morning. My name is Ivor Sampson with Denton's, appearing on behalf of Sears. We oppose the resolution of necessity for 2 reasons, and those reasons are set forth in my letter to the Commission of April 22nd. In hearing the gentleman's presentation, I think we may be having some miscommunication on a couple of issues. There are 2 reasons, neither of which are related to compensation, that why we believe, based on the information that we have before us, that the project does not represent the greatest public good and the least private injury, and that the Commission itself does not have adequate information before it to make that determination. There was a presentation about construction specifications. We need to know and have not been provided with sufficient detail to understand what the construction requirements are, what the construction constraints are, what the construction conditions are. We're told that there will be a construction blackout around Thanksgiving and then up through the peak holiday season. That's a very good thing. But without actually seeing what those conditions are in writing and knowing what other impacts there may be, for example, are the contractors allowed to put privies all along the parking lot? I don't know. We don't know what the construction conditions are, and so we don't know what the impacts are going to be on Sears property. And it's fine to talk about generalities, but in a shopping center, particularly in the holiday season, where you have a lot of traffic, a lot of people coming, going, the devil is truly in the details. And until you understand what those details are, you can't make that determination either. We understand the competitive sensitivity on the construction contracts, and we have offered to enter into a confidentiality agreement where those contracts would be provided to Sears and Sears Council only to evaluate only for the impacts. We have no interest in interfering or interfering with Caltrans' competitive bidding process, but we do need to know the conditions in order to be able to make an assessment of what the impact is on the property, and I should think that you need to have an understanding of what the impact is on the property in order to make a determination that this represents the greatest public good. The second point that I would make regards the ring road, which is a circular road that goes around the shopping center, which is key to access. And first, in response to the gentleman's comment that the ring road has been narrowed, the easement for the ring road has been narrowed from, I think, 10 feet to 4 feet or something like that. There were a number of instances like this, and I would like to thank the staff because they met with us time and time again, met with our engineers, listened to our concerns, and did their very best to try and come up with a design that would work. It's not perfect, nobody's saying it is, but they have done their very best to try and make a design that works, and we appreciate that. Having said that, I think we do have a bit of a miscommunication here, because it is our understanding from our engineers that the modifications to the Sears parking lot need to be completed before work is done on the ring road in order to have traffic and parking flow smoothly on the Sears parking lot. We have provided construction drawings to Caltrans showing what those modifications would be. Basically, the ring road's going to be scooted over, so some of the parking and the ends of the parking noses have to be realigned. Some of the Sears landscaping has to be realigned. We're perfectly happy to do that, but we want the chance to do that work before the ring road itself is moved, and we haven't seen that as a condition. We're in the process of costing out what the construction work will be on the Sears property. As soon as that's done, we will provide it to Caltrans. We understand that's to be an element of compensation. I'm not here to talk about compensation. I'm here to talk about the fact that we need to have the ring road preserved until such time as the Sears parking lot can be modified to accommodate the shift in the ring road. Thank you. I'll be happy to respond to any questions.
Chairman?
Mr. Fromer?
Okay. I got to tell you, I'm a little confused. Mike, is Mike Miles here? Okay. I'm a little confused why we're sitting here arbitrating this dispute. Can you guys just talk to them and give them the information? Because I understand the concern of the retailers, but I'm also very concerned about this project. We've got a lot of money on this thing. We want to make it go. I think you guys have done a good job. But is this something we can get them the information for? Because this doesn't even seem like something we should be arbitrating here. I'm just telling you, I don't see an issue here.
Yeah, we've provided them as much information as we can due to the confidentiality of other potential bidders complaining that somebody else had a set of bid documents before them. So we've provided them with sections of the plans and specs. We have not provided them a complete set of plans, but we have provided them the specs that we put in for the holiday season that will go out to all the bidders, and we have provided them the information concerning the parking lot.
Okay.
Just to follow up with Mike, I want to make sure that I understand what we've provided them. You've given a clear indication of where the right-of-way line will be, where the easement line will be, and you've given an indication of what the scope of work will be on the construction on front and plans, preliminary plans of the construction on the I-10 side on our side of the right-of-way.
Yes.
What information have we not provided regarding, and you've provided blackout dates and construction windows around the holidays?
Yeah, Sears wants the complete set of bid documents and complete set of specs, which we do not feel that we can
I can't give you the complete set of PS&E package.
Let me just give you an example. We were provided some excerpts from construction specifications that talk about blackout dates, and then it says subject to exceptions in section X, Y, and Z. We haven't been provided with section X, Y, and Z. So until we see the complete document, we don't know what's being agreed to or what's being accepted out. There may be other construction conditions that we don't know about that could impact Sears. All the points that you mentioned in terms of easement, right-of-way lines, all of that kind of stuff we have. There's never been a question of that. It's the implementation. What are the contractors going to do on the ground, and what are the constraints and conditions that they're going to be required to follow that we need to understand? And that is information that we're perfectly willing to keep absolutely confidential, but we need to understand it.
We can't give them a complete set of PS&E package. If there's specifics that we have not provided, I feel like we've given them the design in front of their frontage road. The interchanges on either side of the mall won't be closed at the same time. We've given them blackout windows, time constraints. I feel like I can't give them a complete set of the PS&E, but when I got briefed, I felt like we gave them enough information to know what's going on our side of the fence from a construction standpoint.
Good morning once again. Linda Harrell for the department. I would like to bring the Commission's attention to Public Contract Code, Section 4100. It says that the contract plans have to be kept confidential until they're put out to bid. And there's no exception. We could put them out to bid if we get a confidentiality agreement. We could put them out to bid if they promise not to give them to a contractor. They could put them out to bid. There are no exceptions in the law. The contract plans have to be confidential until they're put out to bid. If not, other contractors who don't get the winning bid will accuse us of, well, you leaked the plans to someone and they had advanced knowledge and will be embroiled in.
Can I just say a nice question? We understand that. Okay. I think what we're trying to do here is ask the agency to work with the property owner and just, if there's specific questions that we can do without the burdensome and release of confidential information, which we cannot do, let's get that to them. I'm just saying this is not something that should be coming to the Commission.
I
arbitrate. And I really want to stress to the agency to try to work it out with I understand the retailer's concerns. Those are all legitimate concerns. Maybe if there's specific questions, Counselor, that you have that were not answered because you don't have X, Y, and Z attachments, why don't you give that to the agency and work with them? But I think we need to move forward with this.
I will represent to the Commission that I was personally present at the first and second level review, and the department gave the property owner every single plan it can under the law. Everything we have.
I'm not saying anyone's done anything wrong. I'm just saying if there's additional questions that we can work with the retailers to make sure that this is a smooth process, let's do that. But I think at this point, my own personal preference would be to go ahead and move forward.
Commissioner Inman?
Well, I just want to ask briefly, so I understand the retailer's perspective if we say, okay, we're going to try to protect the holiday period except. So it seems like maybe we do have a communication. I don't know what those exceptions would be, but clearly if it's the first 2 weeks in December, I mean, that's going to be a huge issue for the retailer, but I think it's the unknown that the retailer is questioning. So if you can, it seems to me like a few words here together, maybe you could say what those exceptions would be. Maybe it's an act of God or something, I don't know.
Okay, any further questions from the Commission? What's the Commission's pleasure?
I'll move a staff recommendation.
Second.
Motion and a second to move staff recommendation. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion passes.
I oppose it.
Yeah. 1 nay.
Then unfortunately, the resolution does not pass.
Right.
Oh, don't put me in that position.
I'm sorry, we need 8.
Well, my concern is similar to what Dario said. I feel like my sense is that retailers almost live and die by their proceeds over the holidays. And if there is additional information that we can be providing them of what these exceptions are, I think we need to be doing everything we can to provide that information.
If I may take one more sentence, the department has given Sears all the information it is allowed to give under law.
No, I heard you, and I appreciate that. But exceptions that aren't clear are beyond my comfort level.
When will the bidding be completed?
Well, it's a design build, and so...
Design build?
But I'm sorry, it's not. I'm sorry. Design bid build, so they will be finalized. Mike?
Is the bidding completed?
Is it going out?
We can't finalize the plans until we have the resolution of necessity on what we're going to do, and I'd just like to remind the Commission that this project is about a year behind schedule. due to the right-of-way negotiations.
Oh, it didn't pass. Back to the drawing boards. All right, item number 4.
Would inquire if a representative of the Westfield Shopping Mall is present.
Yes? Thank you.
Okay.
Stephen? Or Mike?
Go ahead. Next slide. This slide will remind you of the location of the Westfield properties relative to the project. Through this presentation, I will refer to these properties as Parcel 1, Parcel 2, and Parcel 3. This slide shows the Westfield property south of the freeway on the west side of Vincent Avenue. Parcel 1 is improved with a commercial building. Parcel 2 is also improved with a commercial building, and Parcel 3 consists of a parking lot and a sign. The area shaded in red shows the proposed freeway widening and the ramp modifications to the Vincent Avenue interchange. The red line shows the right-of-way required for these modifications. The shading has been removed so that I can show the portions of the Westfield properties that will be acquired for the widening. The area shaded in green shows the right-of-way needed for this project from Parcel 1. The department proposes a fee acquisition of 11,258 square feet. This green area shows the right-of-way needed from Parcel 2. The fee area is 2,848 square feet. The yellow area consists or shows the temporary construction easement needed from Parcel 2 to facilitate construction activities. The temporary construction easement acquisition is 1,015 square feet. The very small yellow area shows a temporary construction easement of 39 square feet from Parcel 3. The blue area shows the temporary demolition easement needed to remove the building. The easement is 2,686 square feet. This project will require the removal of 2 buildings from the Westfield properties. The department has assessed these damages and has offered just compensation. The owner has expressed a concern that ramp closures and construction scheduling will impact businesses for Westfield, making mall access more difficult for its customers. In response to this, the department has included written specifications in the project that will prohibit the highway contractor from closing any 2 consecutive ramps at the same time. The contractor will be also prohibited from performing construction activities on eastbound I-10 in the vicinity of the Westfield Mall during the peak holiday season between the Monday preceding the Thanksgiving weekend and January 2nd. This will lessen impacts to the mall. In summary, I would like to summarize the Westfield resolution necessity by stating that the department has demonstrated that it has the public interest and necessity requires the proposed project, that the project is planned and located in a manner that will be most compatible with the greatest public good and the least private industry, that the properties sought to be condemned are necessary for the proposed project, and that offers of just compensation have been made to the owner of record. The department asks that you approve these resolutions of necessity for the Westfield properties.
Any questions of Mike? Would the representative of Plaza West like to speak, or you just want to read this have this into the record?
Mr. Chairman, actually, the letter received consistent comments made by.
Okay. Did everyone get a copy?
Yes.
All right. What's the pleasure of the commission?
I move staff recommendation.
I second it.
We have a motion and a second. You guys ready?
Yeah.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
I'm good. Thank you, though. I feel like all eyes are on me. It's making me a little uncomfortable, Mr. Chairman.
So I believe it passed. All right. Moving on to item number 5.
Yes, would I inquire if the representative of the City of West Covina is here?
Make a motion for reconsideration of the previous.
And proceed, Mike.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, as we tee that up, can we go back to not the previous item, but the one prior to?
The item number...
Yeah.
Yeah,
The
number 3.
Sears property, yeah. I'd like to ask if it's appropriate from the perspective of our jurisdiction to ask for a reconsideration. I'm not pleased. And I think that our Caltrans team is doing the best it can. But I think in cases like this, furthering our negotiations whenever we can is my preferred course of action. I think we're out of hallways for you to step out with the Sears people and find out if you have any additional information that you can provide, well within the law, of course, as this is resolved, how soon you can get them the information they need. I'm just very sensitive in this economy to doing anything that's going to hurt retailers trying to operate in good faith as best they can. So, and Mr. Chair, if it's okay with you and our colleagues, I'd like to reconsider this and urge Caltrans to meet, if not now, very soon with the Sears people as to how quickly, within the full parameters of the law, that we can provide them with all the information they need to stay competitive in this economy.
You making a motion for reconsideration?
Yes, sir.
A motion for reconsideration and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Hearing none. Do I have a motion?
So move the staff recommendation for that item.
All right, on item number 3, we have a motion and a second.
No, that would be item number 3. Item number 3.
Excuse me. For approval of the resolution and necessity. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Item passes.
And again, I'll vote aye with the caveat. Malcolm, can you have your team re-meet with the Sears people right away, determine what we can tell them, how soon we can tell them within the full parameters of the law, and help them prepare for their retail season?
Absolutely. We will work with them to try to give them all the information that they need to move forward as we move forward with that project.
Great. Thank you, sir. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Okay, Mike, item number 5.
Okay, this slide will remind you of the location of the city properties relative to the project. Through the presentation, I will refer to these properties as Parcel A and Parcel B. This slide shows an aerial view of Parcel A located south of the freeway and west of Vincent Avenue. The parcel is 3 acres in size and consists of uncovered parking area. The area shaded red shows the proposed freeway widening and the ramp modifications to the Vincent Avenue interchange. This line shows the right-of-way required for the modifications. The shading has been removed so that I can show the portion of the city property that will be acquired for the widening. The area shaded in purple shows the right-of-way needed for Parcel A. The department proposes a fee acquisition of 24,238 square feet. The sliver shaded in yellow shows the temporary construction easement needed from Parcel A. The proposed temporary construction easement is 6,330 square feet. The blue area represents the temporary demolition easement needed from the city's Parcel A to remove a building on the Westfield parcel. The easement is 5,368 square feet. This project requires the removal of a portion of the parking area, landscape area, and curb and gutter. The department has assessed these damages and offered just compensation. This slide shows Parcel B south of the freeway on the east side of Vincent Avenue. The parcel is 4 acres in size and is improved by 2 parking structures and uncovered parking areas. The shading has been removed so that you can see the portion of the city property that will be acquired for the widening. The area shaded in purple shows the right-of-way needed from Parcel B for the freeway widening. The department proposes a fee acquisition of 7,718 square feet. The yellow area shows the temporary construction easement needed from this parcel to facilitate construction activities. The temporary construction easement acquisition is 8,297 square feet. This project impacts a portion of the parking area, landscape area, retaining wall, and curb and gutter. The parking structure will not be impacted by the project. The department has assessed the damages to this parcel and has offered just compensation. The city contends that the department has not made a valid offer of compensation for the proposed acquisition. They believe that the appraisals do not properly account for severance damages and loss of parking. In response to this, the department has provided written offers for the full amount of the department's approved appraisal on June 20th, 2011 and February 1st, 2012 for Parcel A and on July 21st, 2011 for Parcel B in compliance with Government Code 7267.2. The city has not agreed to the amount of compensation being offered to them. They have been notified that the issue related to compensations are outside the purview of this commission and are instead an issue of the courts. With that, I would like to summarize these resolutions of necessity for the city properties by stating that the department has demonstrated that the public's interest and necessity requires the proposed project, that the project is planned and located in a manner that will be most compatible with the greatest public good and the least private injury, that the properties sought to be condemned are necessary for the proposed project, and that offers of just compensation have been made to the owner of record. The department asks that you approve these resolutions of necessity for the city properties.
Any questions of Mike? We have two speakers on this. First one is Richard Lamb.
I'm Glenn Block. I'll go first.
Okay.
Good morning, Chair, Commissioners. Thank you for the opportunity to appear before you. First, I'd like to clarify, I am counsel to the successor agency of the Community Development Commission of the City of West Covina. The Community Development Commission was a redevelopment agency under California law, which was recently abolished. Therefore, there is a successor agency, and that's who I represent. That is the title holder of the land that Caltrans seeks to acquire here.
Exactly.
It complicates things a little bit. The successor agency objects to the resolution of necessity on a number of grounds. These grounds have been set forth in various correspondence from my office, most recently on May 2nd. And I'd like to address each of these parcels separately, starting with parcel A, which is the land adjacent to the Westfield Mall.
Could we have it up on the board? Is it possible to get it up on the board so we can see what?
I think maybe the aerial photo that shows the three different areas shaded might be best.
Next slide. One more. Is that the one?
The one that shows the take areas. I think it might be the next. No.
Keep on going. Keep on going.
No, the one before. Back two.
We'll go back.
Perfect. Thank you. So here in purple is the area that's being acquired in fee. The yellow is the temporary construction easement, and the blue is the temporary demolition easement that's being acquired. As you can see, these are portions of parking area associated with some outbuildings on the Westfield Mall. These properties, this parcel was acquired and developed by the CDC in conjunction with the private developer as an economic development project. This is parking associated with the Westfield Mall. The offers that have been made in this case by Caltrans are improper under Government Code 7267.2. Their first offer, well, first of all, these offers are almost 2 years old and over a year old at this point, which is a stale appraisal under the guidelines in the Superior Court of Los Angeles County. So a deposit of probable compensation to commence an eminent domain action cannot be made based on these appraisals. But even more so, these appraisals, or the appraisals that are made, are inconsistent, improper, and do not meet the government code requirements. The first offer that was made was based on an appraisal in 2011, in the summer of 2011, at about $36 a square foot. Subsequently, the February 2012 offer was made based on $3.60 a square foot, an indication that perhaps something is not right. Property, there was also subsequently a third appraisal obtained by Caltrans valuing this land at $68 a square foot. It's not clear to me today, as we sit here after listening to the Caltrans presentation, which offer this commission is being asked to base its adoption of the resolution of necessity on. Is it the June 2011 appraisal, or is it the February 2012? There's a variety of inconsistencies between these two appraisals, not just on the value, $36 a square foot versus $3.60 a square foot or $68 a square foot, but first of all, the number of parcels. The June 2011 appraisal appraised 3 parcels. The parcel in blue was not included. The February 2012 appraisal was based on all 4 appraisals, but the areas of each of these parcels is different. And set forth on page 3 of my letter is a table indicating the discrepancies. They're not huge discrepancies, but what is this commission being asked to adopt a resolution regarding? And has a proper offer been made for that? If it's the June 2011, it's the wrong square footages and the wrong number of parcels. If it's February 2012, it's the different areas, but a much smaller 10% of the value. Not only is the land value different between these 3 different appraisals, but the value of the improvements that are being acquired, the land improvements. That's the lighting, the irrigation systems, the paving, things like that. In the first appraisal in June 2011, that found that the value of the improvements were about $95,000. In the second appraisal, there were 2 scenarios. One found the value of those improvements 0. The other was about $90,000, $89,000. In the third appraisal obtained by Caltrans, that appraiser found that the value of these site improvements was $267,000. Which one is it? What is this commission being asked to find? Which offer, and was it proper?
Can you kind of wrap this up? I mean, everything I've heard right now is resolves around appraisals and compensation, which is something we can't deal with.
Well, I respectfully disagree, Chair, Sir Chair. The commission is being asked to adopt a resolution of necessity, finding that a proper offer of just compensation has been made. Which offer is the commission being asked to find, and is that offer proper? If the offer does not include amounts for all of the property that are identified in the resolution of necessity, I respectfully submit.
Can we get District 8 to answer that question, and Mike?
Can you ask the question again?
Which offer?
Oh, the final offer that we made, and the reason that there were discrepancies in the offer was initially the first offer was based on just taking part of the parking lot and parking spaces. Then we appraised taking the whole property, which made the price per square foot go down, but the total value is very close to the same. And then the third offer was done by an independent appraiser, which Caltrans did not approve.
Offer are you probably?
Well,
middle one.
Date of the offer.
The second appraisal by Caltrans, the offer was February of 2012. There was a subsequent appraisal, which council has mentioned, that was undertaken by an independent appraiser. However, after review by our headquarters review appraisers, they did not approve that appraisal because of some great discrepancies in the descriptions between the different appraisals, which I believe relate to compensation and have been mentioned by Mr. Block. The first 2 appraisals, the difference in the areas was the addition on the second appraisal, which was completed in January of 2012, of a temporary demolition easement, which was an additional subparcel. That's why there was a difference in areas. The difference in values, as Mr. Miles stated, had to do with the concept of the larger parcel, but they're also compensation issues.
So we're dealing with the February 2012
yes.
appraisal.
Yes.
working off of.
In the intervening time, because that's more than a year ago, anything changed that would make that appraisal?
We had a confirmation of market value at the end of 2012 when we filed the resolution of necessity papers. So because it's the commercial market, it's been fairly stable during the time period, and we didn't see any great escalations for land values, which is basic composition of what this is.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Would you like to finish your presentation?
I would, thank you. Also, this offer of compensation, the second one in February 2012, does not adequately take into consideration severance damages. The remainder parcel that is outlined in purple but not highlighted is being left, which is of no utility, particularly during the 4.5-year construction period. I'd also like to address the greatest public good and least private injury, particularly with respect to the 56-month temporary construction easement. It's respectfully submitted that that is not the greatest public good and least private injury, disrupting this commercial property for over 4.5 years. There are other objections that are set forth in my letter, and I won't go into those, except to state that the successor agency submitted this matter to the Department of Finance for approval, and the Department of Finance found that the use of the property here is not a governmental use. I'd like to address the next parcel, Parcel B, if I may.
May I ask a question very fast?
Sure. Commissioner Burke?
What did the redevelopment agency acquire the property for, and did it go through eminent domain at that time?
It did. It was acquired for economic development, for redevelopment purposes, to take small, blighted parcels and create the parcel and the development that you see here on the corner of Vincent and California.
But you were still holding it at the time. You're now holding it. It's successor agency is holding it. And your plan is what? Is it to assist Westfield Mall, or what's it for?
It's public parking associated with the commercial corridor, commercial area that's here, mostly the Westfield Mall.
What did you pay for that?
What did the city?
The city pay for the development agency per square foot.
20 years ago.
It was 20 years ago you've been holding it?
Yes, it's.
Okay.
Any other
Summarize
questions?
your position so that we can move forward.
Yeah, well, that is my position, is that the offers that have been made are improper and do not comply with Government Code 7267.7. The project is not planned and located in the manner consistent with the greatest public good and least private injury. With respect, I'd now like to address the Lakes Office Complex, which is Parcel B. And with respect to this parcel, again, the Government Code offer that was made here improperly considers the impact to the parking lot. 85 parking spaces are affected by this project. The appraisal by Caltrans found damage only to 40 or so parking spaces. It also found that there were no severance damages here because, in the opinion of the appraiser, there is more than adequate parking here, and that if there isn't enough parking, the city of West Covina could adopt some kind of ordinance or allow the non-compliance with parking regulations. The Caltrans appraisal also didn't address the loss of parking for 4.5 years during construction and the cost of reconfiguring the parking lot as Caltrans has proposed. Caltrans also has not submitted to the city of West Covina plans with respect to the parking reconfiguration that's contemplated by its appraisal. There are a number of other objections that are set forth, including the department's agreement to reduce the temporary construction easement from 56 months to 28 months, and it's not clear to me as we sit here today whether the department is seeking a temporary construction easement for 4.5 years or 2.5 years. Thank you.
Okay. Mr. Lamb?
Good morning, Commission. I'd like to address some points raised on behalf of the City of West Covina as opposed to the CDC. I've been working with the Planning Department and the Public Works Department for my client, and there are serious concerns about the ring road around the Westfield property and the parking at the Lakes property. So far, what we have are some conceptual drawings of what the reconfiguration on the parking would be and how the ring road would be redirected. But we don't have a lot of details or missing things that could actually lead to a permit approval or an entitlement on behalf of the city to grant the project. So things that are missing include parking lanes, planters, trees, things of that nature. And so we wanted to appear to make sure that the Commission understood our position, that we feel that it's been a little bit indefinite what's been provided to the city in terms of planning and public works. There's also issues about a leasehold interest that the city owns in the Lakes property. I know that's an issue of compensation, so I won't go into that. However, I will say that there is parking on the Lakes property for the public, and the condemnation sought here would greatly impact that, and we wanted to make sure that the Commission took that into consideration as well. I'll wrap up my points then.
Mike, do you want to respond to that?
Yes, in response to the question on the parking, we hired a parking lot consultant to come in and look at the parking lot, and the recommendation was that the permanent impact would be on 16 parking spaces, and the removal of the 40 would be during the temporary construction easement period, and that is set for 4.5 years currently. If we can accelerate it, we certainly will, but we were going for the safety and making an offer based on the full 4.5 years.
Okay. Any questions of the speakers? Any of them? Okay. What's the pleasure of the Commission?
Chair, I'll move staff recommendation.
Second.
Have a motion and a second to approve staff recommendation. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Thank you. We're going to move on to item number 13. Mr. Leahy.
Thank you, sir. Commissioners, welcome to Metro. We're pleased to have you here. Hope that we are providing anything you need, and if not, let us know, and we'll get it for you. It's my pleasure to introduce the Vice Chair of the Metro Board, Diane Du Bois. She's a council member from Lakewood, and will be the chair of the board in just a few weeks. Director?
You, Art. I want to welcome all of you to Los Angeles. I'm delighted that you're here so you can experience firsthand the progress Metro and Caltrans are making to improve mobility on multiple fronts. There are more transit and highway projects under construction and development here in Los Angeles County than just about anywhere in the nation. With CTC support, we're in the home stretch for widening the I-5 from the I-605 to the LA Orange County line, improving traffic flow on the I-5 North, and completing the I-405 Sepulveda Pass improvement project. And we thank you for your help. We have other projects under study and in the environmental phase where we partner with Caltrans. With CTC help, we're working hard to maintain and modernize our highways so that they link effectively with our growing transit system. Our goal is to achieve a balance between mass transit and highway projects to make all of our regions mobile, with improved access for commerce as well as for commuters. Improved highway mobility is critical to the sustainability and growth of our local, regional, state, and national economy. Highway mobility can either make or break freight movement to and through our area. The CTC programmed nearly $1.45 billion for the Southern California Trade Corridor Coalition, more than $900 million of that for Los Angeles County. In this county, that money will go to port infrastructure projects, the Gerald Desmond Bridge, currently under construction, and Alameda Corridor East grade separations that will help facilitate the movement of freight through the corridor to the rest of the nation. So much depends on not simply moving freight through our corridors, but on the impact stalled rail or truck freight can have on our economy and on our air. Our highway and grade separation program will reduce congestion and improve air quality, having a positive impact on the health and safety of our residents. Improved air quality and safety are the top priorities articulated by residents of Southeast Los Angeles County for the I-710 corridor project, and important to all Los Angeles County residents. As a member of the California Freight Advisory Committee, I look forward to working with you to help develop a competitive, comprehensive state freight plan that will benefit California. On the transit side, Commissioners today will vote on an allocation for the regional connector that will improve access to the high-speed rail system at Union Station by linking the Metro Blue, Gold, and Expo lines downtown. This one line will allow schedule improvements for all the Metro light rails and encourage ridership by eliminating transfers for many trips, providing seamless rail links to the high-speed rail project from all of Los Angeles County. The project also will relieve demand on the Metro Red and Purple lines and the 7th Street Metro Center Station, freeing up capacity for a forecasted 130,000 more patrons to reach their transit connections, including high-speed rail. Solidifying your support today will enable Metro to secure a federal full funding grant agreement that will funnel hundreds of millions of dollars in federal money into our region. That's funding that can be granted to any city in the nation. So it's critical that we secure it together for California. By leveraging local resources with federal funds, we can build critical mobility projects such as the regional connector that will boost public transit ridership within a few years while putting people to work now. Metro is working with Los Angeles World Airways on an airport connector to LAX. If all goes well in the next 5 or 6 years, CTC members flying into LAX can skip cabs and rental cars and take trains all the way to Union Station. At the same time, we're looking to expand our rail connections to other regional airports. Currently, we are exploring ways to improve public transit access to Burbank's Bob Hope Airport and its connections to the Metrolink commuter rail network serving Los Angeles and 4 outlying counties. It's really an exciting time to be involved in transportation in our region. With the CTC's continued support for our transit and highway programs, I'm confident we'll soon relinquish the dubious honor of being the most congested area in the nation. And for that, I and 10 million residents of Los Angeles County thank you. Again, thanks so much for being here. As Art said, if there's anything that you need, please let us know. We want you to work efficiently and comfortably. Thank you.
Thank you, Diane. Any questions? Thank you very much. Art.
Thank you, sir. I just wanted to say that I know you had a tour yesterday and got to see part of downtown and LA Live and all the exciting things going on there and all the big projects going on. And as Commissioner Dunn often says, unlike Orange County, Los Angeles has more than one iconic building. although I myself do like the Matterhorn a great deal.
I'm still looking for the poodles that you directed us to yesterday, Mr. Leahy.
7th and Main, not 5th and Main. We have Mike Barber here to give, at the request of Commissioner Burke, a brief update on the 405 project. I should note that we're just beginning work on a P3 that would go under the Sepulveda Pass. We'll keep you posted on that in the coming time. but there's some great opportunities there to do things on that corridor, and it's just a terrible place to try to travel around. Mike?
Thanks, Art. Good morning, Commissioners. I have a handout here if you're interested. It's, I don't know, it'd be good reading at night, but it's definitely will give you an idea of the 405 project. We're going to, okay, it's up there. All right, thank you.
Do we have it?
So I'll make this quick. If you have any questions, please stop me. This is an overview of the project. Essentially, it's 10 miles long. We have about 28 on and off ramps for reconstructing existing underpasses, 18 miles of retaining walls. The main issue here is 300,000 vehicles per day of traffic. I think if anybody's been on the west side, you'll probably understand this problem. This is really kind of a snapshot of where we are right now in terms of cost. Originally, we were at about $1.048 billion, and with about a 3.7% contingency. We're going to the board next month, and we're going to increase that to 1.07 for a fully funded budget. Excuse me, this is what it is right now. Next month, we're going to increase that to 1.149 billion, and that'll end up being about a 10% contingency. The budget difference is $78.7 million, and that's what we're going to be asking for from our board next month. This is some of the challenges on the project. I'll give you some other slides here that talk about this 12 by 12 box. If you go down Sepulveda, this thing runs right down the middle of Sepulveda. It impacts everything in terms of our utility relocations. And it's cost probably about $30 million of unanticipated costs on the project. Right-of-way acquisition, obviously, we go through Westwood here. We have the GSA, Getty. We have a Giro property, which we impacted. We have the VA and FHWA. We have everything in this project. And these impacts have been, because of design build, we've been able to be flexible with them, but it still has been a difficult thing to do it during the project. MSC wall failures, you might have heard about this. The contractor had to actually deconstruct 16 walls and reconstruct with a new contractor, which also impacted the project. Mulholland Bridge, obviously, with Carmageddon 1 and 2 has been a big issue. Shifting to Sepulveda, the whole project really involves shifting to the east, the freeway, and by doing that, we have to impact Sepulveda Boulevard, and when we do that, we impact utilities, and that is really the project in itself. We've had a lot of third-party and other agencies on this project who have asked for enhancements. Some of them are very good. We can talk a little bit about that. And obviously, the third-party coordination has been huge on this project, not just because of the utilities, but because of all the different agencies involved. This is kind of a slide that really describes all our utility issues on the project. You can kind of see that Sepulveda Boulevard is where we moved the freeway to, and it's, we can't have longitudinal encroachments on the freeway, so we have to move these utilities, a lot of them. And this is kind of an indicative of the actual project too. To the right is Sepulveda Boulevard, which is to the east, and then obviously the 405 is to the left and the west. What you see here is a 12 by 12 box, which was not identified in our early construction documents, and we have to protect this. This is about a 70-year-old box, and the county would not, and rightfully so, wanted it protected. And so all this additional work is something the project was unanticipated, and we ended up accomplishing all this on this project. We have a lot of questions about design build. We were asked to do this design build for this project. Metro was. We work with Caltrans. Caltrans is our partner on this job, but essentially Metro manages the project. We kind of had a lot of questions about timing of the project because we are looking at about a year delay right now, but we have kind of focused specifically with the newspapers and the community that if we'd done a traditional project, design, bid, build, we probably would have added about 7 years to the total completion of this project. So whatever problems we have in this design build on the project, actually it's been pretty effective in its general sense that we have actually saved quite a bit of time. Here's some of the high profile Carmageddon 1, 2, and Wilshire ramps. Wilshire obviously is a major arterial in this area, but it also is adjacent to the VA and also the National Cemetery. So all these impacts, obviously are traffic, but they also impact a lot of the cultural resources in the area. Some of the other ones, the Sunset Boulevard, we're almost complete with that. We're probably about 95% with that. Southbound Skirball on-ramp, which is a large, almost about a mile-long ramp, and the Santa Monica Mountains. This is another interesting thing about this project. You have, on one end, you have UCLA and all the cultural resources. On the other end, you have the Santa Monica Mountains and red-tailed hawks and wildlife. On the right side of this is Sepulveda Boulevard. I think this picture kind of shows the problems we have. You can see the big wall there is supporting some homeowners there. But in that area there is all the utility relocations happened. And you can kind of see this is a normal day for us where you'll have numerous closures. We have probably 35 to 55 closures a day on this project. And that slide really kind of indicates the problems of Sepulveda. Milestones for this year, we're going to complete 100% of the utilities, 100% of the bridges, the Wilshire ramps have completed, 90% of the on and off ramps, and 83% of the retaining walls will be completed as well, and 90% of the underpasses and structures. So, essentially this year, we're going to complete most of the work by the end of the year. The rest of it is key issues. In other words, once we shift the traffic to the east, we'll end up doing some median work, which will run us into mid-next year. We kind of keep focus on the community. They're a very active community here, so we kind of keep trying to remind them of the positives of the project. I guess traffic was bad before we got here. It's not any better, but we keep reminding them of the good things, which is we have modified a lot of the utilities and made them a little bit upgraded those. We have a lot of oil, gas, and those have been improved as well. Drainage, we have probably about 15 or so bioswales and drainage improvements on the project have been really beneficial. We've added a bike lane in one area of the project. We have also added road improvements, which impact not only the freeway, but also the Sepulveda and also the ramps as well. And also Getty improvements, too. Caltrans has been dealing with Getty for probably 15 years now, and we were able to negotiate some changing of right-of-way and allows for an expansion of the freeway in the southbound direction, which I think is a great benefit to the project and Caltrans, but also it probably couldn't have been done on anything other than a design build. And that's my conclusion. So, any questions?
Just having spent my whole career around people who do this kind of work, I still find a project of this scope absolutely mind-boggling, what you have to do. I am curious, though. I mean, I had a dog when I was growing up that had a habit of burying bones all over the place and then never went back to them. How does anybody build a 12-by-12 box culvert and then forget that it was there or not know? That just blows me away, actually.
Yeah, I think they wanted to forget it was there. It was actually shown on some of the sheets. There was just a lack. I mean, you can imagine a normal project, you would have done the utility investigation ahead of time and gone out in detail and surveyed all these things. But design builds, we kind of deferred that to the project itself. So some of those things are missed because we do the actual investigation during the project. So while it makes it difficult for us to manage, it actually saved a lot of time in the overall process, though.
Mr. Chairman, thank you very much for making this presentation. And if you wonder how they can't find the box, how do you build a retaining wall and then remove it? You don't think the community raises some questions about that. But I'd like to start with something very positive. Certainly, Carmageddon 1 and 2 were handled very, very well. And the bridges, the Mulholland bridges, went through, I think, you have to be commended for the work you did there. But I tell you, it's, as someone who faces this every day, miles of traffic backup to get to the construction, it was improved for a while when you had people there directing traffic. And I really think, I don't know how much it costs for you to hire the people to provide some kind of traffic direction during rush hours. I would think that it would make it much easier, and I would certainly urge that you consider keeping those people or bringing them back. And I got a lot of comments from people who said when you had the people who directed traffic, and I don't know whether Metro does that or Caltrans, who brings those people in. But when you do and bring some order to what is at present really chaos. So you've done a great job in many, many areas. I don't want to minimize the challenges you've had and how well you've done. But it is 7 to 10 years is quite a big impact on a community. And I know you're aware of that. But whatever you can do to minimize it by some of the kind of things that can keep traffic back up for, as it is now, what, about 3 or 4 miles during every rush hour?
Thank you, Commissioner. I think what we balance out here is getting things done quickly, and we hear from the residents. We actually have a very active community outreach program, and we hear it all the time. We do actually the traffic control officers work for the city. We can pay for those sometimes. We're in a process of asking for more money as well as trying to get the job done on time. I would say that we'll make a further commitment to working with the city on supplying those. We do hear this, and we do use them as much as we think possible. But I think this will just reaffirm with our management that maybe this is a necessary cost. So.
Citizens are offering to put in money to try to speed it up. And that's on the media. In the media, I think it's cause to really be concerned. And I think that someone wanted to offer $40 million or something.
That'd be nice. No, it was actually offering $50,000.
$50,000.
Nothing to sneeze at. Yes.
That wanted to provide you. So I think it's people complain about tax, but when they say they're going to give you money to try to assist you, it shows there's an impact. Thank you very much. You're doing a good job.
Okay, thank you.
So I want to commend you on many of those areas.
Commissioner Inman?
I just want to encourage you to use more soft programming in the communication, too. I think some opportunities are missed. For example, UCLA at Poly Pavilion, it'd be very easy to get them to put up on that great big board before we go home tonight. We have these closures, so I don't know where Mr. Leahy is, but I have gone to a couple of UCLA basketball games. He'll be disappointed in me. But I think really if we can think of all of those other tools, because information is so very powerful, and to allow all you to do the work you need to do, anything we can do working with the universities, any of our other magnets for people over there, just to give them the heads up that they want to head in a little different direction.
Thank you, Commissioner. I think one of the unique things about the project is we've actually gone to electronic media to go to Twitter and to emails, and we also do a lot of signage too. I think the complaints we get is about the signage sometimes on the freeway, and it's just because there's so much happening. It is confusing out there. I'll bring this one issue up with our media folks, because we do, on our project, we do look at all these issues that are brought up just like that.
Just use your partners that are, have the ability to easily communicate, and I think UCLA probably would be willing to help us in that regard when they have a major event at the university to share some information.
Thank you.
Well, just one question on the relocation and the discovery of the vault, because there was some sense from the articles in the newspaper that was going to delay us. And how much delay are we looking at, do we know, and are we looking at additional costs?
We have the contractors probably quite a while ago has gone from about a 6-month delay to about a 14-month. Right now, they've been indicating about September of next year, but we've already, according to that schedule, we're already about 5 months ahead of that. So what the Metro has been saying in the papers is that we're mid-2014, and we actually have the ability to maybe even beat that, but right now that's what we're holding with, and that's approximately a year's delay.
And cost, any additional?
Project costs have gone up. The $78 million is what we're asking for next month. So that's, essentially, it has some contingencies in that request as well. So I think we'll should be able to run through the rest of the project with that amount. Yeah.
Okay. Any other questions? Thank you.
Thank you.
If Art needs someone to approach UCLA to make that happen, I'm happy to do that. They might not return his calls. I don't know.
Well, graduation's coming up, so we might want to use them.
Okay, now we're going to back to item number 10, Agency Secretary Report. Brian?
Hey,
Good morning. I was going to mention two things during this presentation. One was the status of the agency reorganization, and the second to talk a little bit about the draft cap and trade plan. Agency reorganization is going well. June 30th, the Business Transportation and Housing Agency ceases to exist, and July 1, the Transportation Agency is born. We're going to be moving down the street to 915 Capitol Mall. We're going to share a facility there with the state treasurer, who's already located there, and we'll also share the facility with two other new state agencies, the Business, Consumer Affairs, and Housing Agency, which will be taking some of our current departments, and also the Government Operations Agency. So I think that'll be a positive to be able to coordinate with those two other agencies. So if you're looking for us after July 1, please remember to find us at our new location. The other thing I wanted to mention was the cap and trade process that we're still in the middle of. On April 16th, the Air Resource Board released the draft investment plan, and this is a plan that was mandated by AB 1532 by Speaker Perez last year to set up a process for determining how those proceeds from auction sales on carbon emission credits would be allocated. That plan specified that transportation should really be the largest priority for the proceeds. There were a number of areas in transportation mentioned in the under the Business Transportation Housing Agency umbrella. They mentioned four. We had rail modernization, active transportation, a program to support walking and biking. We had a proposal that was similar to what I think many in this room were advocating through a coalition called Coalition for Livable Communities, and that was allocating some of the cap and trade funds to regions so they could fund projects that supported the SB 375 plans, the infill development, transit, complete streets, things of that nature. And lastly, we had a infrastructure item that would be available to fund some of the things Caltrans does on the state highway system that are beneficial to reducing greenhouse gas emissions. There are a couple other items in the transportation category. The Air Resource Board has some programs for zero-emission freight and also zero-emission passenger vehicles, and those were mentioned in the plan. The next step, really the action moves from Air Resources Board to the Department of Finance. They'll be releasing the final three-year investment plan with the May revision on May 14th, and also proposing some expenditures for 13-14 of cap and trade proceeds. To put a little bit of a level of magnitude on this, the January governor's budget had estimated about $600 million in cap and trade proceeds through June of 2014. A large share of those, consistent with last year's budget, would go to programs that aided the state's general fund. The first year there might, in that January proposal, would be about $100 million in 13-14 expenditures that would be new. Significantly, though, the cap and trade program is still being implemented, and the fuel sector will come under the cap starting in 2015. So there's an expectation that those revenues could grow over time, although I'm cautioned not to speculate on what those revenues might be. But that program is proceeding, and again, with May 14th, there'll be a proposal for legislative consideration on how to spend some funds in 13-14.
Great. Thank you, Brian. Any questions of Brian? Great. We'll move on to item number 12. Report by U.S. Department of Transportation. Our favorite comedian. Welcome, Vince.
Thank you, Sir Recliner. I mean, Sir Chair. Hey, you brought it on, pal. You bring it on.
That would be Sir Chair for you.
Sir Chair. I thought it was Sir Recliner, so I wasn't sure. Briefly on what Malcolm talked about earlier, Tiger 2013 is out. It's our fifth version of Tiger, and there's about $474 million. The applications need to be in by June 3rd. Malcolm talked about the June 30th date of next year, 2014. That's when all of your project stuff has to be ready because it needs to be obligated by October 1 of 2014. So we can't come in the middle of October and go, okay, we just got the NEPA document approved. All of that stuff needs to be done by June 30th. So there's a couple dates in there. You can go to dot.gov. It's the website just look up the Department of Transportation. Tiger 2013 is the top thing on it. So there's a little nuance there. The urban area projects are $10 to $20 million. That's what you can request. Rural area projects have to be over $1 million, and there's actually a portion of that is required that no less than $120 million across the country must go to rural projects. So that's a little different than in the past. So trying to make sure that the rural programs have an opportunity there too. There's a bunch of different things that they're looking at in that. So please take a look at that website, get into what they're focusing on, what some of the priorities are. Multimodal, other investment in that. So the federal government's not the only people investing. We're looking for local investment in that also. Another thing is SHARP 2, Strategic Highway Research Program, is out. That's moving right now. It's a big program. I don't want to get in a whole lot of detail because I know you're behind schedule, but you can go on the Federal Highway website, look at that. There's a lot of opportunities for assistance from Federal Highway in that area, so you can take a look at that. We're moving up in our DBE numbers. Our DBE participation is getting better. It's not where we need it to be, so I want to encourage everybody here to make sure you're doing the outreach you need to. You're getting your goals on contracts. You have aggressive goals on contracts, and you're evaluating. If someone doesn't come in meeting a goal, that you're going through and making sure that there was no way they could have met the goal. So we're looking for a very active participation in the DBE program. The inactive obligations, we've moved your cheese. I talked about that a couple meetings ago, and we've done a great. Norma Ortega and her team have done a fantastic job with Caltrans on working with us to get those inactive obligations down. I know Denix is really reaching out to the local programs to do that same thing, but this is a real thing, and we're going to be pulling money on projects if we don't keep the spending on the projects going. And lastly, in the interest of time, on Buy America, if you want to just step out into the hallway, we can go at it for 30 minutes or 30 seconds or so, and we talk about it later. So Buy America is real. It's here. A lot of the challenges that we're having on projects circle around, I think most of the primary issues circle around utilities, I think. But the thing I want to urge everybody is to remember that the Buy America, it's the new nuance. I talked about it last time. It's not just because you've got federal dollars on a project that Buy America applies. In the past, if you had a contract that had, if your contract did not have federal dollars on it, Buy America didn't apply. Now, if it's within the limits of the environmental document, and you want to use federal dollars on any segment of that project, calling the project the limits of the environmental document. So any contract in there, if you want to use Buy America, you use federal dollars on that, then everything post-October 1 must have Buy America provisions. Even if you're using state dollars, local dollars, dollars from a bake sale, it doesn't matter. You need to have Buy America on it. So if you're not sure, you need to, I want to kind of make this to everybody here. If you're not sure, make sure you get with Caltrans, because you're really looking at the future. So if you make a decision tomorrow on a project that I'm just going to use local dollars and we're never going to use federal dollars ever on this project, and you don't have Buy America provisions on that project, on that contract, you won't be able to use federal dollars on the rest of the scope of that environmental document. So that's very important to recognize. So I'm guessing there's 1 or 8 questions on Buy America, unless you'd like to talk about Tiger.
Commissioner Dunn.
You want to step outside? Is that?
I'd like to step outside.
All right, let's go. In the hall.
It won't be negotiations. So are you incentivizing us not to use federal dollars? Is that basically the strategy of the Department of Transportation?
No, actually what we're incentivizing everybody to do is Buy America. I mean, really, it is an interesting twist. We've talked about it at the SCAG meeting the other day as being strategic in where you use the federal dollars and how you do that, but you just need to be aware. And I think that's what's so important is I don't think anybody's going to be able to make a case to why you shouldn't buy. I mean, it's pretty hard. You're not getting a lot of support on that, why you shouldn't buy American product. And I think recognizing the global economy that we have and we deal with, challenges that. But I think that's
the key point is to share with you is that it is a global economy. Everyone wants to buy America. We get it. But the supplier after supplier, we've talked about this.
Right.
This is a competitive marketplace that is not defined anymore by political boundaries.
Right.
And so it's sometimes short-sighted to think this way. In fact, more often than not, short-sighted. Notwithstanding the, rah-rah, we need to get our people employed.
Right.
But I'm going to be anxious to see how other states are addressing this as well. It can't just be impacting California's projects.
And I think we're going to do our best to where we recognize this is a challenge. It's in the law. Our flexibility has been limited in the law. And I'm not disagreeing with that. It's just a fact. So I think what we are doing in our office. So don't make a decision without talking to us. If you're on the fence, you're not sure it's right. We've had a lot of discussions on a lot of different projects on the issues. If anybody ever comes to Federal Highway and says, we need to do this so we can get around Buy America, then I'm going to start the answer with no. If people come to Federal Highway and say, we would like to do this to work through Buy America, then we're at the table. But if we're going to try and skirt Buy America, I want to make it clear, we're not skirting Buy America. There's a lot of areas where Buy America may not apply. There's a lot of areas where it absolutely no choice, it does apply. And we can work with anybody who wants to talk with us about that to find out where the nuances are, because there are some nuances to it. And I think people get scared of a lot of things when there's actually quite a few exceptions to Buy America, or exemptions in the Buy America provision. So I think don't always be scared. Talk first before you get scared.
Mr. Inman?
Okay, I won't be scared, but will you please talk to Alameda Corridor East regarding the Nogales project and figure out how we make that all happen by notice to proceed date on Monday?
I wish us the best of luck.
Thank you. Any further questions of Vince?
Hey, just on the Buy America events, I have a little different view of it than my friend Lucy Dunn. I do think it's important to do that. And I will say that I found that the agencies have been flexible in situations that we watched at, and I hope that we can focus on not only on buying products and parts, which we should where we can, where it's feasible for us to employ people in this country, but also to encourage the manufacturing to come back to this country, the assemblage of rolling stock and other transportation vehicles that we need that can be done here. We're starting to have a competitive advantage in this country for a lot of interesting reasons. We're seeing a lot of auto manufacturers, for example, now relocating their plants here. Honda, Kia, Hyundai building cars in the United States, Toyota. We ought to be looking at those opportunities for the rolling stock, the locomotives, and other heavy rail, because I think that's a sweet spot for us.
And I agree. I think that's a big challenge. The people that I've talked to about that, that's one of the issues with the Buy America is what not for Buy America would that industry be here or not? And I think that's a very important piece of that.
And I think,
Mr. Gardino?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I think Commissioner Frommer raises so many good issues about wanting to bring those types of jobs not only to America but to high-cost California. It brings up so many policy ramifications as well that many of us know and are sensitive to in our day jobs. And it'd be nice to have Dario back in the legislature as well as he grasps that issue. But there is much work that we as a commission
Talk to my wife first.
but that we as a commission need to continue to do in a respectful way with legislators and staff about the realities of global competition. It's important and almost easy to say Buy America, but there is so much engaged there to make that go from a slogan to a substantive reality.
Said.
Any further questions? Vince, thank you for that very informative presentation.
And relatively short. Did you notice that?
We weren't going to comment on your height.
For me, relatively short.
We weren't going to comment on your height like that, Vince, but you go ahead.
Okay. Moving right along to item 14.
You weren't going to get anyway.
Good morning, Commissioners. Will Ritter with the San Joaquin Council of Governments on behalf of the Regional Transportation Planning Agencies. The Regional Transportation Planning Agencies met with staff from Caltrans, CTC, and FHWA yesterday to discuss several items of significance to state and federal transportation funding. With respect to the current STIP allocations, the regions recognize the limitations and opportunities to advance STIP projects this year, but appreciate the CTC's continued support of advancing PPM funds that are significant to the regions as they rely upon those to deliver STIP projects and to T-type projects that may be impacted in the transportation or transition to MAP 21. With respect to the 2014 STIP, the regions are supportive of the 2014 STIP fund estimate assumptions and recommended alternatives that are taking an optimistic but realistic approach to forecasting future revenues, recognizing that we do want to look at revenues that could result in additional capacity to advance projects. With respect to the update of the STIP guidelines to revise performance measures and cost effectiveness policies, the regions have concerns for the balancing of state highway and local transportation system needs. The regions want to work with the CTC to ensure that the STIP and CTC maintain flexibility to address the diversity of the regions across the state, including where there's more of an emphasis on alternative modes, where smaller regions are actually using STIP funds to match projects that perhaps are coming out of the bridge or the safety programs, and where in regions there are a significant amount of other funds that are going towards the state highway system. Now, the regions appreciate the opportunity to provide or the opportunity being provided by the CTC staff to have a sufficient time to review and comment on new performance measures and cost effectiveness policies, including a workshop in July. With respect to MAP 21 for fiscal year 2014, as many of you may know, many of the executive directors and CEOs across the state of California have gotten together on a compromise for specifically 2014 for MAP 21 funding distribution. These guiding principles are based upon a compromise that is important in order to focus on other pressing matters, such as the next reauthorization. It's looked at, we would be supporting the administration's proposal with the recognition that this would be for 1 year. There are some details I won't go into as far as how the funding would be distributed, but the important part here is ensuring that the administration agrees to work with statewide agencies on efforts for passage of MAP 22 and with priorities in program clarifications, and also looking at where we'd support state cash availability to allow all regions to exchange their STP shares over a 50% suballocation. With respect to the TAP part of this, that is an area that's had a significant amount of interest. And note that there's a support of the administration's TAP funding distribution proposal with the Active Transportation Program, and with respect to a request to the CTC for an expedited commitment to develop the guidelines for statewide competition, and as part of the guidelines to incorporate a process for use it or lose it, and that the funding be redistributed if not used in a timely fashion. With respect to federal aid project delivery, I think there's a lot talked about with respect to Buy America. That continues to be a significant concern to all of the regional agencies throughout California. And while we appreciate the department's efforts in identifying a list of the state highway projects that are being impacted, we've also looked at having the department help facilitate the identification of the local projects that would be impacted, because we do anticipate that they're going to be significant. And we also do appreciate the efforts going on between Caltrans and the Federal Highways Administration, looking at where there are those appropriate exceptions to the Buy America or strategies to help better facilitate the delivery of projects, and with those in mind. And finally, I just wanted to note that we do appreciate the webcasting that's being provided. I would note that that is of significance to a lot of the smaller regions throughout the state that don't have the resources to be able to come to all the meetings, as well as even for the larger regions that do have other staff that do like to be able to participate, by viewing the meeting and being able to go back before the meeting minutes are produced to be able to look at some of the actions. So thank you for those continued efforts. Any questions?
Any questions of Will? Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Moving on to item number 15, report by rural counties. Sharon?
Good morning, Commissioners. Since I last came before you, We've had a meeting of the Rural Counties Task Force and a conference call with the task force as well as the North State Super Region. The focus of that meeting was looking at issues such as cap and trade and how they would apply in the rural areas of the state to diminish greenhouse gas creation, as well as talking about what might be the way to implement MAP 21 throughout the state. Of critical importance to the rural areas is the Surface Transportation Program, the Bridge Program, and safety. As you heard from Will Ritter, we achieved a consensus among the regional agencies in terms of how to administer the program in the upcoming year, and we are supportive of the administration's proposal as well. The other area that we've been working is with the Federal Highway Administration came out recently and is working on performance measures. We're working to establish what those would look like in the rural areas of the state. Yesterday, Mitch Weiss on your staff also brought up the idea of performance measures as a way to guide the STIP guidelines that you're updating, as well as the active transportation program that is currently proposed. So those are areas that are on our radar. We've also been working on the Business Transportation and Housing Agency's Future for Transportation Finance Group here in the state. Our focus has been on highways and local streets and roads because those are of most interest to our membership. We've also been attending the Freight Advisory Committee. We feel that's a vital area for rural agencies since a majority of the freight coming to and from this country goes through a rural area. And with that, that concludes my comments. Any questions?
Thank you, Sharon. Any questions from Sharon? Thank you. All right, next presentation is the Self-Help Counties Coalition. It doesn't look like Andy.
No, sir. Ann Mayer, on behalf of the Self-Help County Coalition. First off, I'd like to congratulate Director Dougherty on his confirmation in the Senate as the permanent director of Caltrans, so congratulations. The Self-Help County Coalition has been working with Malcolm ever since he stepped into the acting role at Caltrans in trying to find ways to improve efficiency and to streamline the way we all do business here in delivering transportation projects. We've appreciated being part of the program review that the department did, and we're also included as part of the department's ongoing efforts to status the program review and to look at additional ideas and options. We've also been meeting on a quarterly basis with Secretary Kelly, Deputy Secretary Annis, and Director Dougherty to talk about other initiatives outside of the program review or Self-Help County Coalitions, as well as others delivering transportation projects, how we can work together with Caltrans to eliminate duplication within our agencies and across agency boundaries, and to look at ways of improving processes throughout California. So that has been an important effort, and it's one that we're certainly committed to. We also are represented on the Finance Committee CTIP. I can't remember what it stands for, so CTIP. We're participating. Suzanne Smith is participating as a representative of the Self-Help County Coalition. So again, a lot happening around the state on the policy front. Now, on the subject that has previously been discussed, and Vince and I have not only been in the hallway on this, we've been around the block a couple of times. Buy America. There is no doubt that there is a commitment amongst our coalition members and many others to comply with Buy America. Our contracts are Buy America compliant. The challenge is there are third parties that we are required to deal with on projects that are at this point saying that they're not going to comply with Buy America. It is a very real and urgent situation. Malcolm talked about there being a couple $100 million worth of projects coming to you over the next month for allocation. I have a couple of other examples for you. Tomorrow, the Riverside County Transportation Commission is awarding the contract for the State Route 91 Corridor Improvement Project. You all may recall a few discussions here on that project. That will be a $630 million contract, and we have 3 utility companies refusing to sign agreements as a result of not their lack of willingness to implement Buy America. It's the obstacles that are in the way to them implementing it immediately, and I'm certainly not going to talk from a utility company's perspective. But what I would like to tell you all is that this is very urgent, it is very real, and we are all between a rock and a hard place because we have to comply with federal law, we have to comply with the regulations, our contracts are in compliance, but we are obligated to work with third-party entities to be able to get these projects moving forward.
Sure.
So I would ask on behalf of the coalition and certainly on behalf of our agency that the Commission do anything you possibly can to support Director Doherty in his efforts in working with the utility companies to bring them to the table sooner than later so that we can try and get some of these critical issues resolved, because there's a lot of money at stake and a year's worth of work on many of these projects. We have TCIF projects coming up next month that won't be able to be allocated because they don't have agreements with the utility companies. So I just wanted to flag that as well. With that, I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you. And Commissioner Gardino?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. If I may, sir, perhaps we might direct staff in our next state legislative update. I know that State Senator Jerry Hill has introduced legislation about how in a global economy we best and most thoughtfully implement Buy America standards. In my day job, my staff is just right now at the Senator's request starting to look at that, but I think he is trying to be sensitive to how we meet both the spirit and, to the extent possible, the letter of the law, while understanding that in a global economy, that is a very complex goal to meet. And perhaps if we can see more about that legislation, maybe there's, at least in the longer term, a path forward that our state might consider and that we might weigh in on.
Commissioner Arp?
Question.
Is that okay, sir, to perhaps direct our staff to that? I don't want to do that as an individual commissioner.
We're getting a head nod from Susan.
I can do that.
Great.
Yeah, I'll
Thank
bring
you.
that back.
I appreciate that, Mr. Chair and Susan.
This is federal law here we're talking about, though, right? So,
yes, it is.
My question is there a way for us to get some of the key issues specifically out in a document so that we can see what the heck is going on? Because frankly, you've got hundreds of millions of dollars of work that are at risk at a time when we're trying to promote what I also agree with Commissioner Frommer is an essentially good policy. I like the idea of promoting Buy America, but we've got to be able to do this in a way that doesn't eliminate jobs when you're supposed to be creating jobs. So, and that's going under the radar screen. Nobody's picking up on this except for those of us who have to deliver these projects. So I would like to know, I'd like to get more specific information. I'm sure other commissioners would, if there's a way for us to get that, and then we can figure out how we can move this.
Commissioner Inman?
Well, I think we're on two tracks here. I think we've got some short-term urgency issues that we have to deal with immediately, and then I'll look at what's the effective solution. But it is the law today, and we all have to figure out ways that we can move our projects and comply with all the laws. So I think the timeline that I asked you for, Malcolm, is so very important, and I'm going to offer up all my fellow commissioners here to do whatever we can to at least sit down at the table with those partners who are having difficulty. I know some of our agencies tell us that they've found ways and found some solutions. So if we could have a little task force of saying, who's been able to find which solution to work, and it won't be a one-size-fits-all. It will be probably a project by project and a need by need. But I think that there really needs to be a sense of urgency because every dollar is so precious.
Malcolm?
What I will do is I will share information with Susan to share with you. We have a 2-page fact sheet that kind of goes over the applicability of Buy America, and I also have a document that summarizes the current conversations with each, as well as a synopsis of all the projects that are pending impact and kind of the urgent ones versus the others. And as a starting point, we can share that with Susan, and she can share that with each of you.
Outline the utility issue. I'd like to understand that better.
They've stirred everyone up.
This is all
They've done a
pertaining
good
to
PR
the
job.
utility companies and buying.
Okay. We have another speaker, unless we have further questions from Ann. Eric
Thank you.
Shin.
Good morning.
Really done a job on this.
I'm Eric Shen from Port of Long Beach, Director of Transportation Planning, and I'm very glad that commissioners have been discussing about specifics on Buy America, and I would like to provide some project-specific information so to help you understand the implication on very urgent needs and also implication on the Gerald Desmond Bridge. The Port of Long Beach, in coordination, very close coordination with Caltrans and FHWA, and we have been working very aggressively with our third-party utility providers on utility relocations in order to meet the design-build contractual obligation. The estimated cost for SCE to move its utilities is about $15 million. 5 of the 9 phases within SCE's work are subject to the Buy America provision. Due to SCE's present position, and there's really no immediate resolution in sight, we anticipate very, very significant delay to complete by SCE to move its utility out of the way, so design builder could start doing its work. The estimated cost of delay is estimated at $162,000 to $177,000 a day due to a contractual obligation with our design builder. So let me just repeat. If SCE doesn't move out of the way in time for the design builder to start its work, the port and the entire project is on the hook to get those risks resolved. And unfortunately, there is no immediate resolution right now, and the port really has no leverage with SCE to get it itself to comply with Buy America. So I echo Ms. Mayor mentioned earlier and Ms. Doherty's estimate of 40-some projects statewide, and we ask your help to help us engage conversation and find any leverage that we have to get the utility companies to comply so that we can get our work in time, on schedule, and delivered. Thank you.
Commissioner Fowler?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. A question for Malcolm. So the utilities are covered under this because they have to do work moving conduits, lines. I mean, how are they? What is it that sweeps them under Buy America? Because we're not contracted.
Any
with
transportation project that is federally funding has federal dollars on it, and that's spelled out in MAP 21. It was there. If you were spending federal dollars previously, you were having to do Buy America anyway. MAP 21 basically enhanced that. This was not an issue prior to MAP 21 because we generally relocated utilities with state dollars or local dollars. That's not the case anymore.
Never come up.
It hasn't come up in the past primarily because that's how we dealt with it in the past, was with state and local dollars. Now it basically says if you're spending a federal dollar on the environmental clearance or any part of it elsewhere, all the components are fall into the Buy America. And in fairness, the utility companies are just ill prepared. Their business model is not set up to do this. They can't account for their inventory. They can't go look down there. At least this is the argument they're making. They can't look down their supply chain. We are a nuisance workload for them. We are not 90% of their workload. We're a nuisance workload. Right. But we've got to figure out how they're going to be able to get their suppliers and be able to comply with Buy America sooner rather than later. And if it is sooner and we still need an exemption, that's what I'm trying to set FHWA up with so that we don't delay our projects. But we've got to get the utility companies to a point where they're committing to complying within a reasonable amount of time, and we have not gotten there yet.
Well, so one suggestion was we do have friends, and we have 2 members of this, ex-official members of this commission, who are going to pass judgment on other measures that utility companies are asking for in the legislature. Rate reform, RPS reform. Might be good to ask Chairman Lowenthal and Chairman DeSaulnier and others to sit with the utilities and say, especially for Bonnie and Bob Foster, Eric in Long Beach, these are very important things. Can you focus? Sometimes you get folks who are the purchasing and the project people, and they're doing their jobs, right? They are. but you got to get someone's attention higher up in the food chain to make that happen. So just a suggestion there, if you're running into that might sort of jumpstart the process if they start getting a call from Chairman Lowenthal, who's really worried about this project and has been, or Mayor Foster, who's a former Edison executive, who's really worried about this project.
Good suggestions. Okay, any other further questions? We'll move on to item number 17. Susan?
Commissioners, agenda item 17 is state and federal legislation. This is an action item. Staff has identified 47 bills that meet the Commission's criteria for monitoring. The book item before you highlights certain key legislation that is believed to be of higher or more direct impact to the Commission. Staff has identified 2 bills for sending letters to the authors. Staff would recommend that you approve staff recommendations, and I can certainly go through those bills with you. For the sake of time, I'll leave it to you.
What's the pleasure of the Commission?
How about if I'll go through them. AB 14 is authored by Assemblymember Lowenthal. It mandates the preparation of the state rail plan and an establishment of an advisory committee. Staff would recommend the Commission adopt a support position for Assembly Bill 14 as it seeks to inform the federal government, federal policy decision makers of the key goods movement needs in California. It will also provide California with a competitive advantage to receive funding. The other bill is Senate Bill 486. This is authored by Senators DeSaulnier and Senator Liu. This would establish an Office of Legal Compliance and Ethics. This office would report to an audit committee. The audit committee would be formed of the Commission and the agency secretary. Staff would recommend that the Commission commend these authors on their efforts to promote transparency and accountability in the transportation program, but also provide a recommendation to the authors seeking further clarification in this bill to ensure that the bill, if it were to be adopted, would provide, I guess, better assurance of achieving the author's objectives. The clarifications relate to Caltrans' responsibilities for addressing misconduct, the standards that would be needed for the office to operate, need for Caltrans to report corrective actions to the audit committee, and the decision-making processes for the audit committee. With that, staff would recommend that you accept the staff report and approve the staff recommendations.
Mr. Chairman, may I ask a quick question of staff on this?
Mr. Gardino?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Susan, as I read about the bill by Senator DeSaulnier, who's often with us to his credit at these hearings,
Right.
As well as Senator Liu, I understand and agree with their desire for accountability and transparency. Candidly, in all government agencies, it's our tax dollars collectively. It made me wonder, though, precedent. Do other agencies and departments have such an office internally? If so, how have they worked, effectively or not? Or is this precedent that Caltrans would have this and others do not?
This is within California. I think this is a very new idea. I believe that the senators are authoring or are setting this up similar to the way the Texas Department of Transportation operates, but this is somewhat different from Texas Department of Transportation. I do know that the legislative staff have arranged a meeting that I will be attending, as well as Caltrans staff and agency staff. I believe it's next week or even this week. Could be this week. And so at that time, I think that I will, staff, receive further clarification on how this would be moving forward. That is why at this point in time I'm not recommending that the Commission adopt a support position for this legislation, but instead send some comments over seeking clarification were this to continue moving forward.
Mr. Chair, I think it is accurately captured. Our current arrangement is pretty typical throughout state government to have an internal audits and investigations unit. The new proposal is new to state government. Our current setup is pretty typical throughout the state of California government.
And I suppose the one other thing that I would like to add, one of the clarifications in the bill as far as ensuring that Caltrans still maintains their responsibility for preventing, detecting misconduct and performing audits. I don't believe it's the intent of this legislation to just move the entire audit office out of Caltrans.
Okay, any further questions? Commissioner Dunn? Not yet.
Second.
Motion second to move to staff recommendation. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Commissioner Dunn?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. One other one, Susan. Are you aware of SB 425? It's setting up a new peer review on public works projects in California.
Yes, I believe that one we are tracking.
Could you
Is that
come back?
DeSantis? Certainly.
Because we can use another review process. I just know we just don't have enough. So if you would double check that one for me.
I will. I believe that's Senator DeSantis
I
we're talking
believe it
about.
is.
Yes, so we'll bring back information on that. Thank you.
A quick question, Susan. I'm looking through this, and I saw the ones that sort of impact us. Are there bills moving this year on the reauthorization of design build and P3? Because I know we're full up on our DB projects, and I think those, if I recall correctly, it's the original authorizing legislation was SB 1X4, and I think it has to be reauthorized by next year.
I'm not familiar with that one. Malcolm, do you?
We're in the middle of evaluating the 10 pilot projects, and we really need to come back and conclude a report of where design build was successful from that pilot. So but I don't believe there's any.
I heard talk there was going to be a bill, but I hadn't seen one.
Yeah, I'm not familiar with any current bills.
I think Stephen.
I believe there is one on design build kicking around.
You know, Commissioners, what I'll do, I'll go back. Our next meeting is in June.
Report back,
I'll
please.
report back on
Okay,
that.
that'd be very helpful. Thank you so much.
Two final questions, Mr. Chairman, to staff. Assembly Bill 14th by Lowenthal, just to comment on state freight plan. I speaking for myself, input continually from Commissioner Inman would be helpful to me, if not the Commission, on the direction of this bill. The second is Assembly Bill 574, also by Lowenthal, about establishing standards for CARB money allocated for the Greenhouse Gas Reduction Fund. How those funds are used would be certainly of interest to this commissioner. Fran?
Oh, I think on AB 14, we have already moved the needle in terms of our Freight Advisory Committee being formed, and we've had our first meeting. So I believe that was one of the intentions of Chairman Lowenthal initially. I think in her bill as well is recognition that this is an ongoing, we're not just going to have a freight plan and then go away, that it's a continually evolutionary process that we're all engaged in. So I think, we're moving along, and frankly, I want to commend Caltrans because I think they've done a Herculean task with a very small group of resource folks to be able to really make this happen. Part of the challenge has been after GMAP, we all went to our own corners, so to speak, in our regions, and we did a lot of work. Our SCAG region and our RTP has a huge section on goods movement. So there's much work left to be done. But I think it's all good. I've been accused by Malcolm of, being the head cheerleader for the supply chain, and I know we've had a lot of global discussions this morning, but I think it really is important that we continue to elevate it, continue to keep the pressure on. We're a long way from the implementation of SB 375, in my opinion, as it relates to the supply chain and goods movement. So I think it's important, and it's all good.
Thank you, Commissioner. And
comment on AB 574. I think in next month that's been a ongoing effort for over a year and a half with a coalition that is very well organized, and it represents potentially a great deal of funding for transportation. But I think next month we'll probably, after the May revise comes out, we've been working with BTH and the governor and the legislature. We want to make sure everybody's in sync before we put that before the CTC, I think.
Thank you, Commissioner Arp.
Okay. Before we move on to item 18, I think, Stephen, you want to give us an update on item 2?
Yes, if we could jump back to item 2. I believe the parties have come to an agreement. The item can be withdrawn, and we'll just bring up the parties so they can verify that for us.
Job, Lucy.
Good morning. Good morning, commissioners. Again, I ask you to approve the RON. You asked us to go out and negotiate in good faith. You gave us half an hour. It took a little bit more than half an hour, but I think we got it done. And so I'm going to ask you to approve the RONs. Thank you.
Hold on. You deserve a reward.
This breaking thread together.
Mr. Chairman, I would move staff's recommendation.
Well, wait, I'm
Do we need
confused.
to approve the RON, or are we
Got to
going
hear
to
from the other side. You don't hear.
I really appreciate the interest of this commission in preserving this agreement and helping our client and maintaining the value of this property. I particularly appreciate the group that you sent us out with. Bassem Wallen and Catherine Bidart and Eric Fleetwood and Brent Green were invaluable in this process, and we have reached an agreement on a possession and use agreement, and we've reached agreement on the RON.
Great.
Our client, Mr. Miller, the owner of the property, concurs.
I do. Jonathan is the best. He is the best. So.
Congratulations.
Don't take him out of District 8. We want him to stay in San Bernardino.
All right.
I heard from the mic, Mr. Chairman, the word I do, so I now pronounce you.
Thank you very much.
I have a
No, we
motion.
really appreciate it.
Did I
Thank
get a
you for
second?
the extra time.
Second.
I have a motion and a second to approve the RON. All those in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? Approved. Thank you. All right, moving on to item 18.
Good job.
Getting close to lunch, Mitch.
Commissioners, item 18 is a budget and allocation capacity update. Stephen Keck has prepared a brief presentation. There's a copy in your handouts. In the interest of time, you may wish to forgo the presentation and move on right to item 19.
Thing that in this presentation that's different that we need to know about today?
In tab 18, nothing too terribly exciting. No, I was going to cover a little bit about the president's proposal for transportation, but that's very unlikely to happen. So skipping it won't cause any harm.
Go ahead, Stephen.
All right, then I'll move on to item 19, which is the 2014 STIP fund estimates final assumptions. I presented the draft fund estimate assumptions at the last meeting. I believe that was in April. And since that time, we've gone back with my team and working with your commission staff to update several of the assumptions. And we're bringing it back to you today to ask for your approval of the assumptions so we can move forward with the fund estimate itself. As I mentioned at the last meeting, these fund estimate assumptions will really drive the STIP and SHOP capacity. We've done our very best to develop assumptions that balance between the optimistic and the reality. I did not let my own pessimism taint any of the options, and I think you heard from locals as well that these are pretty darn good assumptions that toe the line without going over. I'm going to go through the specific changes that we made to a few of the items. I'll be as brief as possible. And I will point out that when the May revision comes out and the final budget is adopted in June, some of these assumptions may be changed slightly. That's to be expected, and it simply is when the budget comes out, that will be the base for the fund estimate. The most significant of the assumptions that were updated was this first one, which is how we're going to look at the economic recovery and how it's going to impact revenues. After the last meeting, we did go back and revise the estimates to include the new tax rates that were adopted by BOE pretty much right before the last commission meeting. We also went back and looked at tax rates estimates from the Department of Finance for the future that takes into account these changes. We also went back and looked at the emissions models from the California Air Resources Board and how that ties in with fuel consumption. And we came up with a new alternative that produces slightly more revenue than what we had recommended in the first one, but not very much. We also really solidified that VMT curve. And I'll say this again, we're almost at that point where the fuel mileage of the new cars is going to start wiping out increases in VMT, and we're going to start seeing continually declining resources so long as we stay with the current model, which is a tax per gallon on fuel. I won't recommend an alternative to that, but I'll at least say that. The second option that we have updated was to update the federal revenues. At the time we had produced a draft fund estimate, we did not have the full year's revenue for the first year of MAP 21. We do now, and we will include that as the base for the fund estimate. We're recommending that we use a level amount throughout the fund estimate period equal to that first year's amount. It is a fairly, I'll say, conservative option because we don't know what summer commonly MAP 22 will bring. This at least hangs on to that hope that it will not go down. So we're recommending that alternative. And finally, motor vehicle account transfers. We haven't made a change to this, but it is something we're asking for action on. This has to do with unneeded revenue being transferred from the motor vehicle account to state highway account. This has not happened in 15 years. We're making this assumption as a fairly low dollar amount so that we don't give up our claim on that funds while at the same time not terribly overestimating that revenue. We have had talks with the appropriate parties. The general issue here is that although there is cash in that fund, it is not unneeded cash, and that is something that I can certainly also understand. We have the same way our funds run the same way. We have a cash balance for a purpose. And that's what we're hearing from the Department of Finance and the DMV is that those funds are there, but they're not unneeded funds. So we have this reservation there just as a stake on the claim without overinflating our revenue. We talked about some significant issues that may or may not change as we go forward with the Budget Act. We have updated the assumption SHA 7 that deals with non-Article 19 revenues. We included more historical background that talks about how those funds were used in the past. The current law says that money shall remain in the account, state highway account, until appropriated. The governor's budget includes a provision that would permanently transfer those revenues to the general fund to pay for bond debt service. Whatever happens with this budget will be what the fund estimate assumes. We're not making an assumption at this point. Active transportation, as you know, is still up for discussion. And again, however that turns out, will also be included in the governor's budget as enacted in the budget. I'm sorry, will be included in the fund estimate as enacted in the budget. We updated a few other assumptions, which I will just skip over with the exception of mentioning that we did include a BCP reservation in the fund estimate. Originally, we had not brought one forward, but after discussing the issue with your staff, we decided to put a very small amount in. The $75 million number is equivalent to about a $5 million a year increase in the department's budget. We have a $13 billion budget, so it's percentage-wise very tiny. But it does recognize that as we go through a zero-based budget process that I discussed at a prior meeting, there will be some ups and some downs, but it'll be a very small change over the period. And finally, we updated what we used to call Section 209 costs in the PTA. It was very cryptically worded. We just wanted to update how we describe that, basically to say that we're paying our fair share of Amtrak costs. It's required by federal law. We kind of quoted a little bit here so that it's clear that when we're talking about these increases in the PTA side of the fund estimate, we're really talking about paying our fair share of Amtrak costs. So we added that update to the book. I've been very briefly going through the changes. The book with all the assumptions is included in the book item. The changes that we made are outlined on page 3 of that book item.
And at this point, I would ask if it's appropriate for me to ask, and maybe it is for Mitch, the commission approve the assumptions, then we can move on to creating the draft fund estimate, which will be presented at the next meeting.
Staff recommends the commission approve the assumptions.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes.
Thank you.
Okay, 30-minute lunch break. We're running a little bit behind, so we need to pick up the pace a little bit. So 30 minutes.